Hello, everybody, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is March the 1st of 2017, and we're here. We're going to talk about manga, Chris.
We are. A little bit of manga. A little bit of manga.
Just one or two chapters, not a whole lot.
Bit. Not a lot. I don't know. We might have to find time to fill in the rest of this podcast with, Nick. Who knows?
I mean, we are going to have to get used to just doing longer episodes in general, I guess, with the extra series we're taking on.
Mm-hmm.
But
we already added Astra. We are going to be adding Seven Deadly Sins maybe next week, sometime around then, very soon, I imagine. So we'll already longer with those. And then there's probably going to be more after that. So, that. And then, good news, baby. World Trigger might be coming back. Volume 18 is coming out. And that seems to be a good sign, potentially.
Yeah, Ashihara included a message from Ashihara saying that he is alive and well. Apparently lost like 15 pounds.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But alive and well is a good thing to hear. So hopefully he is in good health and able to recover. And yeah.
Yep.
But I guess this week, since we don't have any manga to talk about at all, we should just fill in the time. So Nick, I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot recently.
Yeah, I know. You're messaging me about that. You were messaging me about that the other night, and you're like, Nick, check out how great my sweet burn deck is doing.
You don't understand. All right, so I've been commenting on the fact that I used to have an old school direct damage deck back in the day, and it used the Dark Room and Nightmare in it. And I was like, oh, sweet, that deck was awesome. And you always just laughed at that idea, because you're like, Dark Room and Nightmare sucks. Direct damage decks aren't very good in general, especially in the current meta. If you came out with that current deck right now, you'd be destroyed. And then I was undefeated, Nick.
Fortunately, Duel Links uses cards that came out like 12 years ago.
No. This was in Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. This has all the cards in it.
Okay.
So this was in Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, had all the cards in it, and I battled our good friend Gav. Old Gav over here. Bip, bip. He had some horseshit deck. I don't know what it's called, but like he just shot Blue Eyes White Dragons out of every orifice onto the field. It was literally like that first scene in Yu-Gi-Oh! The series where it's Yugi versus Kaiba.
Did you just summon a bunch of monsters in one turn?
He summoned 3 Blue Eyes on his first turn. I was like, how the whatever. I don't even know. And I still beat him. I beat him with my burn deck with the Dark Room and Nightmare on it. So
3 Dark Rooms of Nightmare.
3. I've since shortened it. I realize that's kind of unnecessary, but
because they don't activate off of each other.
They don't. And they just occupy the board that I really need for other shit.
Well, if they did activate off each other, it would cause an infinite loop. So, fortunately, they don't.
Yeah, but it's
Dark Room of Nightmare. For those of you who are like, "What the fuck is that?" Basically, it deals more damage each time that you deal effect damage to your opponent.
Yeah, it was 300 damage
so
times.
Each iteration of effect damage, it deals an extra 300. So, if you have a lot of different effects that deal effect damage, it's more effective that way. So, when you actually were telling me about that, I thought you were talking about in Duel Links, where it would be like, why would you put 3 of your 20 cards?
No, they don't have Dark Room and Nightmare in that game. I'm sad.
There's not enough life points for that to really be worth it.
No, I have not tried a burn deck in that yet, but I managed to make it work.
Cards in that game.
Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is it worked in real life, and I'm taking an immense amount of pride in that. However, my throw together dinosaur deck, in which I just put a shit ton of dinosaurs in, it was like, fuck it, Metamorph, and I've got one more card left, Gear Freed the Iron Knight, because I like that design. That didn't work so well.
Metamorph and a card that won't work with Metamorph.
Yeah. The synergy is too much. Imagine if my opponent steals Metamorph and tries to put it on my monster. Countered. Anti-meta deck.
Oh god. All right, guys. We do actually have a bunch of manga to talk about. So I will save you the details of why I'm pretty much quitting Duel Links, as in it's too boring.
I'm not. Feel free to challenge me.
Yeah, you use a strong monster to win. There you go. So instead, we're just going to be getting right into the manga we have to talk about this week, because we still have 3 jump starts. Fortunately, we don't have to do each of the jump starts for the entire 6 weeks that we're getting new ones. but it's still a lot to do. And on top of that, we have Astra back, and we have a chapter of Boruto. So it's kind of fortunate, actually, that this week we don't have One Piece to talk about.
Don't forget about the return of RWBY.
Oh my god. Returned like Hunter x Hunter returned, basically. Except it was announced and planned. Yeah. So, Chris, like I said, we are working on getting 7 Deadly Sins ready to add to the lineup. But that'll probably be at least another week. And in the meantime, let's just do it. Recap portion of Weekly Manga Recap. My Hero Academia. Chapter 128, Boy Meets World, I guess. You know. Did you ever watch that show when it was on?
No,
Chris?
I never really cared for it. I don't know. There was something about, I just didn't quite get it. Maybe it was I was too young for it when it was popular. Because I never got like the Cory Topanga thing. I was like, yeah, that's whatever. Who cares?
They're adorable.
And I guess like the characters weren't wacky enough. The only person I ever like found kind of interesting was Feeney, like just that like mentor teacher.
Mr. Matthews.
But otherwise, yeah, it just didn't mean anything to me.
It got weirdly different later on when it actually started to get wackier. Got much more over the top in its comedy. Like literally, there's an episode that I think is basically the point where it lets you know, yeah, things are getting weird from now on, which is literally a girl that like his roommate is dating is a witch.
What? Wait, it gets supernatural?
Yeah, and she just has like a coven of witches.
Wait, hold on a moment, what?
Keep in mind that this was part of the TGIF lineup, which Sabrina the Teenage Witch was a part of, so magic is real in the combined multiverse.
Boy Meets World, Witches of Pembroke?
Yeah.
What the? Wait, hold on. Wait, is that actually Sabrina the Teenage Witch, though?
No.
It looks like Melissa Joan Hart.
No, maybe it did have her in it as like a reference. I don't know.
That's fucking that's mind blowing to me though. Like it would be like if what was the name of the evil fucking doll from Family Matters? Like if that was actually a real character on the show, it just didn't show up in the Halloween episodes.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Hold on, I'm gonna find it. Evil dummy Family Matters. You're gonna be blown. Stevel, that was its name. Stevel. And hold on, you have to see the image of this fucking thing.
And then also, in fairness, probably the single best episode of Boy Meets World was one that was a really wacky one, which was it was one of those things that of course turned out to be a dream sequence, but it was done like it was a slasher film. Which includes the unbelievably wonderful gag where one of the victims gets a pencil thrown through his head, and then his corpse falls down and it leaves a mark on the wall behind him, and someone else goes up to it and is like, "Well, always remember he was that tall."
It's a pretty good gag. Yeah. There's also a scene where Stevel comes out of the toilet because I think they flushed him down the toilet to kill him, but he came back like at the end of one Halloween episode. He's like, "I'm back," or whatever.
I have seen considerably more terrifying dummies, so...
It's not that it's terrifying, I just love that it's like a goofy fucking Urkel dummy that's just evil. That shit's... I don't know why, that's so funny to me. By the way, weren't we supposed to be talking about manga? Didn't we explicitly make a promise to not tangent too much?
Deku is trying to prove himself to Sir Night Eye, who is using his quirk Foresight to prevent Deku from grabbing the stamp that he would use to stamp his approval thing. We get actually a really weird sequence at one point where Sir Night-Eye dodges Deku dashing towards him. It's kind of one of those like I moved so fast that I disappeared things, but it's done in negative, so it looks quite odd.
I thought it was meant to see that was him foreseeing the future, so he saw he was about to make that move and reacts to it.
See, that's why I was confused. Night-Eye, of course, is lecturing Deku while he's dodging around. He's pointing out that you only have 3 minutes, and you've already used the first 2. You're still struggling to move around, so why don't you just give up? Sir Night-Eye says, you have such an uneasy expression on while you're focusing on this. Those standing at the top must never openly show their doubt and unease. By understanding that, they can hold on to their vision and act accordingly. Despite being told that countless times, no doubt, you can't seem to put that guideline into practice, even in a safe testing environment such as this. You swore you'd make me accept you. The more I see, the more I fail to understand why it had to be you. And Deku just replies with saying, well, he said I could be the greatest hero, and he throws this big old rack of books at Night Eye to try and distract him. And he's like, okay, well, maybe if he can't actually see me, then he won't be able to use his foresight. Can he see every single future event or just the target's actions? I've got to figure it out as fast as possible. And maybe that way I can use it to grab the stamp. And so he kind of dashes through the books as they're flying towards Sir Night Eye and rushes towards it hands first while shouting, I am All Might's disciple! And Sir Night Eye just kind of...
It's kind of worth noting at this point. It's more noticeable as like a couple more pages into the chapter, but there seems to be something with Horikoshi this week that maybe didn't have time to complete the entire chapter. There's quite a few scenes where it's very like rough line art still. Like in the shot where Deku's reaching for his hand, you can see that Night Eye still isn't like finished. The books themselves are kind of sketches. The hands of Deku are kind of used as still like sketch form. They haven't been fully like lined yet. And like a couple pages later, it's very noticeable as it's like, it almost feels like they went into the like Take On Me video. like I was about to just see like a dude in like a fucking aviator helmet with a wrench come after like some pretty blonde girl. Like
I guess to kind of see what you're talking about, you can really definitely see it on Sir Night Eye's jacket when he's reaching towards the stamp. Sir Night Eye himself does look quite rough, and you can kind of see it also when he's picking up the shelf of books, Deku's hand.
Yeah. I'm not saying there's any issue with it. Yeah, I understand. Like,
and I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it the first time around. So,
manga is a pretty demanding career to have, so it's understandable if these sort of things happen. I only just wanted to kind of point it out.
It's not nearly so ridiculous as that one chapter of World Trigger where like everything was just like lined out heads.
There was a chapter in Naruto back in the day that had an issue with that too. So it's not something that people are necessarily immune to.
Why do you think Oda takes breaks all the time?
And he probably enjoys sleep.
Being able to get the occasional 4-hour nap.
He enjoys like being 50 and not having to like work 12 hours straight 7 days a week. So,
Deku rather hits the wall literally as he goes flying past Tsunade as he dodges out of the way, and Deku's like, oh, I'm not done yet. And Tsunade says, 3 minutes have passed, it's over. And he says, come on, you came with one actual strategy and then you fell to pieces after it failed. So what's wrong with you? And Deku says, I didn't lose focus. And Tsunade is like, okay, so you just made a stupid mistake. And Deku says, that's All Might's 10th anniversary commemorative poster that's not sold anywhere, so I didn't want to step on it. And Tsunade looks around the room and realizes that as much as Deku is dodging around all over the place, all of his All Might merch has somehow been completely avoided. And so this catches him by surprise because he's like, oh, even though I was taunting him like that, he managed to actually still be aware of his surroundings while he was also working to get the stamp from me. So he actually chuckles to himself for a second, just before Mirio and Bubble Girl come back into the room because they heard the commotion inside. And Tsunade says, I accept him. And Deku is like, but I failed the test. And Sir says, I told you to steal my seal. I told you to steal my seal and stamp the form yourself. But I never said that I would reject you should you fail to do so. And Mirio observes, oh, you made Sir laugh. And yeah, he did. A very tiny little chuckle, but he did it. So he succeeded on that ground in order to make him accept him. And Tsunade is kind of still lecturing him as he is explaining, Your placement here was decided the moment I heard you were coming, and I knew all along that you wouldn't be able to that you would not be completely useless to me. But I still had not accepted you. Now that the people are without their symbol, they don't need merely a small spat. I am completely tripping over myself. This stupid speech. The people are without their symbol. They don't need merely a small spark, but rather a bright and shining light. Even if it goes against his will, you will gain the experience in this pro-hero office that will make you very aware of who is best suited to that power. And he drops the stamp into Deku's hands. He stamps the approval form. And so Deku has renewed determination from this experience, essentially. He stamps the form. So we cut ahead to the next day, where the art is a lot cleaner, honestly.
Yeah, I think this part was probably done earlier.
Yeah. And we get to see Mirio's superhero outfit. It's
shocking.
You can kind of tell it looks as though he designed it when he was 10, I think.
Yeah. Which, I mean, didn't Deku kind of do that too? Was it
Deku
like
did the same thing with his original outfit with the stupid ears. God, he has not worn that hood in a long time.
I'm sure there's supposed to be some moment where we're gonna see, and maybe it's because maybe all the art wasn't finished, and maybe it looks a little bit more impressive with all the precision done to it, or we're just waiting for that moment where it's like, oh, this is how this part of the costume aids in my my power, because otherwise I'm like, it seems like a really dorky looking costume.
but when he turns intangible, all his clothes fall off anyway.
Maybe, but there has to be in this world of My Hero some material maybe he can't phase through, like the ruby quartz of the My Hero world or something. I don't know, or it phases with him. I don't know. Ghost ore. Look, I'm not being paid to write this. All right, I'm just noting.
The ruby quartz.
Yeah, fucking Cyclops. That's why he can't shoot his eyeballs.
Oh, okay.
Don't act like I'm not you didn't know what I'm talking about, Nick. We're both nerds here. You don't get off on this.
Because the first thing in my mind jumped to was Steven Universe. So.
Oh, no, I have no idea anything in that.
I like how certain because they're all in their superhero outfits, Bubble Girl and Deku and Mirio, and Sir Naya is just wearing his suit. So I guess that's his superhero outfits.
What does he actively patrol? It sounds like he's more of like a mentor kind of character, or maybe it is just his suit. I mean, fuck, if I look that dapper, I'd probably just walk around. They're patrolling.
They're splitting up. Mirio is going off with Deku while he's going with Bubble Girl, so he's on patrol.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know. I guess it is. Or maybe his like real suit pops up out of somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. So Suranai explains what's going on, and he says a small organized crime group called Shie Hasakai, their young head, a man named Chisaki, or guess who is it?
I don't know. Could be anybody.
Who could it be? I don't know. I've seen so many characters in this manga who wear Plague Doctor masks.
To be fair, his entire group did seem to wear Plague Doctor masks, so yes. It could be any of his minions too.
Deku is like, I thought that the Yakuza were kind of dead. And Bubble Girl says, well, yeah, they did disperse a while ago, but this guy's gathering forces for some reason. He made contact with the League of Villains recently. We don't know exactly what happened. And Sir Night-Eye says, however, we've acquired no evidence of any wrongdoing, so we can't treat these people as full-fledged villains. Didn't they, like, beat up a bunch of bank robbers on the street and, like, didn't he essentially crucify them? How do they not know if this guy has committed atrocities?
Yeah, I feel like I really definitely at some point need to go back and reread that chapter, because like at the time I remember being like
twice that chapter featuring twice he murders a couple of bank robbers basically.
Yeah, at the time it was like, why are we getting this chapter on twice? I didn't like just digest everything. I guess I really need to go back now and he's like a major character again.
So what they're looking for while on patrol is concrete evidence of criminal activity while being careful not to attract their attention. So they split up and go off in separate directions. And all of a sudden, this little girl just scampers out of an alleyway, running away from someone, and bumps right into Deku's hip and falls to the ground. And she's got a single, like, devil horn sticking out of her head this way. And Deku immediately bends down. It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Did I hurt you?" And she's obviously afraid. And the guy who's chasing her comes up behind. And oh my gosh, it's Overhaul.
Don't touch him, Deku. He'll explode.
And he just kind of says, "Shame on you causing trouble for this nice hero." And Deku is narrating from that way that, the way that they did in the Stain thing, where there was like the ominous narration that made us think that someone was going to die, and then nothing all that bad happened, actually.
Something awful is going to happen. We're going to get reprimanded relatively easily by a dog police officer.
We won't get credit for stopping the villain. And that's basically it. We'll get a finger shaken at us. He says in the narration, "My long work study had only just begun."
Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, all right.
It's only just begun, Nick.
Dun 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 dun. This chapter, when it kind of got from point A to point B really quickly, didn't we? The last few chapters before this, building up this Sir Night-Eye and his test and stuff, and then right after wrapping that up, all of a sudden, and then he just turned to Overhaul, like with absolutely no warning other than the fact that he had been introduced a couple of chapters before this. That was really it. So I was rather surprised that we encountered him again so quickly.
I think what kind of surprised me the most on this was just how the actual conclusion went for the situation with Night-Eye. I was a little surprised that essentially, like, it was kind of like a joke victory. Like, he was like, "You avoided all my All Might posters. I shall take you on. I had no intention of ever not taking you on to begin with." Like, I see that there's still inherent drama in there because he's like, "I definitely am going to take you on so that you can see firsthand why you are the inferior person to have all for one." And I presumably give it up willingly then, because that's the only way it could be passed on. But it was a little surprising that it does kind of end the situation ultimately off on, "You avoided all my All Might posters. That's very nice of you." It's like, oh, okay. I get it, I guess, but I wonder
if this idea got changed a couple of times from when it was first conceived, and so maybe originally it was like, "Well, I was always originally going to accept you, so okay, but I'm not really impressed with you." Just kind of be that stereotypical mentor with no faith in the student kind of thing, and then Deku's got to prove himself through actions in the arc following after. I guess so that I don't know, maybe they thought that would be a little cliched to go with that option, because you see it happen all the time, the guy who thinks the student's going to fail, and so whatever, I'll run him out of here soon enough.
And I ultimately do get it. Like, some people are like, yeah, this is him making him laugh, which is what the test was ultimately to begin with. It just feels like if Sir Night-Eye is going to be a significant character in Deku's life, I would have liked their first interaction to have come across with a more dramatically appropriate conclusion. And I'm not even saying it had to be dramatically done. I'm just saying, even as a joke, this didn't really feel like it had enough oomph to it. So,
right.
We shall see. I mean, I didn't feel the same way necessarily with Gran Torino either, and that's ended up being a bigger deal and works out. So perhaps there's more to this than what we're seeing. Oh shit! I guess we got to talk about RWBY.
RWBY.
No shot of Junior in the front. Just
where is he?
Just the four girls and John or Jean, whatever. Who cares? You don't have to see this anymore. So if you recall last time,
we thought last time that it was the final chapter, but we did think. Well, it doesn't say the end though. Is this actually the end? And we were debating it.
I guess
it turns out this one though is the last one.
This is the last one.
It says the end at the end of the chapter. So this is it.
And they also call it the final chapter in the jump table of content. So this is the last chapter RWBY won't be talking about anymore. I just all right. So last time, if you recall, they killed the Grimm, and they were all fucking heroes. There's a scene of them talking about, like, I guess some professors at the school. I don't know who these characters are at all. So they're like, oh my god, I can't believe that they managed to do it. It's such a rare creature, blah, 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 blah. And I guess it's because he's, like, talking so much and so frequently that all the girls are meant to have, like, goofy reactions to it. So, like, Ruby is spinning her eyes, I guess because she's dumb and can't follow this conversation. Weiss is just being friendly. Blake is, like, giving a dead-eyed stare. And I think that Yang had a stroke and is dead. Because she's just blank eye staring with a snot bubble shooting out of her nose. I don't know if she's supposed to be asleep or she's just dead or something happened. Like she's been replaced by a replicon or something. There's really not much to say about this chapter, though. They're mostly just talking back and forth about a couple other things, talking about the world they're in. A little bit of a tease to, I guess, Torchwood in front of some big robot machine of some kind that I guess some people have said, I guess this connects to something in season or volume 2 of RWBY, so maybe that does. Then there's a big 2-page spread with a shit ton of characters we don't know. I mean, an absolute crap ton. Junior's technically in one very small panel over here, so I guess he is still the most important character in RWBY. But yeah, then it's the girls walking off into the fucking Bleach-like no background world that they exist in, and that's credits.
So there are a couple of things that like bother me about this.
Just a couple?
Well, I mean, it is only like 5 pages. So after we get the introduction of like, oh, the professors have learned about this, combination Grimm or whatever, suddenly Blake starts needling Ruby over her leadership and is like, this would have gone much more smoothly if I were the leader. There's more of this than, coming up with combination names. But we agreed to use combination names, and I would have been so much better this way. And then Blake and Yang have to break it up and just stepping between them and stuff. Everyone's like, oh, everything's okay. And Ruby suddenly notices that she's got a scar on her cheek, and it's like, hey Blake, we're gonna be like mirror images to each other and stuff. It's like, okay, this interaction between them is like
they're rivals.
Yeah, because I mean, look, if you watch RWBY, then you know that Blake and Ruby don't really get along a lot of the time, but they're really friends, But this is the first hint of this that we have really gotten in this manga. Because during that fight with the Grimms, they worked together quite well. There was no bickering really between them that I can remember. And if it was, then it was so unmemorable that, it didn't leave an impression, but apparently this is something you were supposed to take into this conversation. So it's the sort of thing we've been talking about throughout our discussion of RWBY the manga, where it's we don't get who this is for. If you are a fan of the series, then yeah, you get these interactions and maybe this adds to your enjoyment of it. But if that's the case, why did the first 2/3 of the series was spend on just, redoing trailers you've seen many times over, I'm sure. And for new readers, yeah, this doesn't make any sense at all. And you're just getting this kind of now abruptly. It almost feels like there was a list of bullet points that they wanted to hit, and they just kind of checked them off as they were put into this adaptation, as opposed to writing an entire story that kind of flowed together. Yeah, I'm curious what sort of the thought process behind putting this all together was. If it was hey, we want to make this something that's accessible for fans who maybe don't know what the show is, but they like manga, so they can read this and get interested. But they're oh shit, we need to have a story in this, so I guess we'll add something in here that connects to something, but let's not make that too long or whatever. I don't know. I think my energy to be frustrated by this is past, just because I've said it so many times. I just don't get what the point of this was. This is the end. There's presumably no more. Maybe they do a part 2 or whatever. But as it says, this was 15 chapters, 2/3 of which were just retellings of action or character trailers. And then the last part was a pretty inconsequential, I guess it's an original story that connects to something in volume 2. But, I mean, in and of itself, on its own, it did nothing. So
Yay.
Yep.
I don't really know what else to say. I guess if you are intrigued by what you've seen of RWBY, the show's on Rooster Teeth. You can check it out there. I think it's also on Crunchyroll and a shit ton of other places, so you could watch that. And it's probably better to just watch it and just ignore that this manga even exists.
Speaking of ignoring a manga, Fairy Tail.
Yes, Fairy Tail, chapter 524, Black Future. So, last time, Actologia showed up. He crashed down from the sky, and he was now freed from Irene's, like, I send you to the other side of the world magic, basically. And this is Urza and Wendy reacting to him, and they're scared shitless. And I actually kind of like this, because they're scared, terrified, and Actologia just walks up and he's like, "It was you, wasn't it?" to Irene's body. "Then you are my mother." And he just starts kicking the shit out of her in like a violent looking scene where there's just this like harsh sound effect of grunch as what seems like he's just kicking her so hard her chest is exploding. Like there's blood shooting out. So I don't know if he's like ripping her apart with his foot or if it's just meant to be like she's like bleeding out of his kick wounds. But it seems savage, and at least for this moment, it's not like Wendy and Urza immediately being like, "Don't you do that to my mom," or whatever. Like, it's a moment
They're just horrified that he's doing this, and they can't really do anything to stop him as he goes full on kicking the dog evil because he's just laughing while stomping this corpse.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, that's pretty satisfying. You know, it's nice seeing Actologia still feel like he is the biggest fucking deal in this room. Which it comes across as the ultimate point of this chapter, as we cut over to the fight between Zeref and Natsu inside a Fairy Tail. Basically, they just exchange a couple blows. Zeref knocks Natsu away. They note that because he doesn't have Ignel's power anymore, that his chance of actually beating Zeref has disappeared. And that's when Zeref realizes, shit, like, he's here. So, Natsu, fuck off. If you really care about this planet, then you had to let me go kill Actologia, because no one else is going to be able to. Cut away. August is essentially saying the same thing.
Hold on. I really don't like this brief exchange that Zeref and Natsu have.
Okay.
Because Zeref suddenly turns into Kung Fu Master guy. I really did not get the impression of him up to this point that he was basically going to fight the way that Natsu fights. And I'm kind of disappointed that he does.
I mean, it makes sense in the sense that we haven't seen, like, an actual magic out of him that isn't just Death Zone. So, I guess you imply that since he's lived for so long, he probably at some time, like, he found, like, it's like a Master Splinter in the new, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot. He found an Asian book in the sewer and learned Kung Fu off of it. That shit's still fucked up!
I was about to say, like, so yeah, it makes sense that he learns, you know, a form of hand-to-hand combat. I'm sure he had plenty of practice with all the people who died around him.
All the people who immediately perished once they got within 40 yards.
So we're going to teach you the white belt for now.
He's like, all my weak masters.
I know Kung Fu.
But, yeah, it's a little disappointing, but, I mean, I guess necessity kind of demands he has something that they could do, and I don't know if he's shown to have like a generic kind of energy magic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we cut over to August then, who's fighting with Gildarts. Is that his name? No.
Yeah.
No, that's not his name, is it? Gildarts was Gildarts. I was thinking Mist, and that was the guy who turned out to be what's his name, Gerard. So yeah, August is fighting him, and Kana shown up, and basically August just saying, like, fuck off! You need to stop acting larger! God damn it! It is the future! It's important! And he's essentially saying, like, look, you don't get it, but the extremes to which our master's going through are necessary, because it's literally the only thing that's going to stop this world from being destroyed. You have to accept this. And Kana's like, shut up! No!
Fairy Tail!
I don't care what kind of rationalizations you use. The only thing that's important in our world is friendship and laughter and having fun together. It's like Apocalypse Dragon literally killed you doing that. Literally destroyed you all.
We held hands. It was fine.
Yeah, we got teleported. It's like, all right, bullshit friendship magic aside, you would have been killed in your own fucking laughing and holding hands nonsense. maybe you guys should give this dude the benefit of the doubt here. So she fucking uses fairy glitter to blast him, and he doesn't give a fuck. He's like, whatever. That was pretty lame.
I'm August, bitch.
Yeah, he's like, I'm dope as fuck. Can't touch this.
You can't see me.
At which point,
In case you forgot to fill off.
I'm still knock your bed off. He says over to Gildarts, do you love your daughter? And he's like, yeah. And he says to Kana, do you love your dad? She's like, no, but I guess so. He says, well, I've acquired every magic in the world, and yet there's one that eludes me. The love of a parent and a child. I'm like, what?
I'm completely impotent, and so I can't have kids.
I'm like, what does that mean? I've acquired perhaps every magic in the world, and yet there is one that eludes me. The love between parent and child. Is that supposed to literally be a form of magic? Like,
do you believe in magic in a young girl's heart?
Yeah, I get Disney sells us on this notion that love is magic and things like that. I don't think it's literally a combative form of magic.
Oh, come on. No, Chris. Remember, Harry Potter, Avada Kedavra, was countered by the love of a mother for her child. Oh.
Man, I'm glad I didn't read all of Harry Potter. That shit sounds so lame.
It was old magic, Chris.
Is that the magic they put away because it sounded too dorky after a while? They're like, we can't teach this in school. The kids are gonna laugh at us.
I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, I'll use a spell called Ridiculous, but
yeah. They're like, I'll do Leviosa, but not this.
I kind of came to realization while reading this chapter, which is I'm pretty sure that Fairy Tail is still not anywhere close to ending. Because I get the impression that after they beat Zeref, that Acnologia is probably still going to be the final villain. That's what I think's going on.
I guess kind of works. I always kind of figured it would have to be Zeref, since that's the one who he's like Natsu's going to have an actual like a connection to. Like there's actual emotional weight there. But I guess Acnologia makes better sense as the final villain because one, he's like total and absolute evil, but two, he doesn't have a chance to be redeemed.
Right.
I don't think they're not going to go with that angle, so I guess it's a way for like the final fight to be more like black and white sort of thing, and maybe Zeref has a chance to redeem himself and sacrifice himself to stop. I don't know. I could definitely see that happening.
Well, especially because this arc has been about Zeref. We haven't had an arc about Acnologia yet. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for as long as he's been involved in the series, and for as much as he's been built up, I really don't think, even though it's Fairy Tail, and you can't really put anything past Hero's bizarre way of dealing with issues that feel like they should be long-standing and then get resolved by saying, oh, he decided to be human, so he's fine. Then I still think that he would not take that villain and then just like have him be defeated without giving him like a really big built-up conclusion. Mm-hmm. Zeref's time to be defeated seems like it is approaching soon. Acnologia seems like it's far off still.
I can see that, but
so
yeah, I don't know if this is like I'm like, oh, what an awful chapter or anything like that, but it is definitely one where I'm just like, eh.
It's Fairy Tail. Let's move on to Food Wars Shokugeki no Soma. Chapter, where's the fucking 204? The 10th seat's decision. Okay, so this chapter starts off amazingly. So the two forces are arriving at the meeting place in the mountains to discuss the terms of the Team Shokugeki and the Regiment du Cuisine. And so the good guys show up first, and Soma and company are all waiting there, and they're like, where's Azami and everybody else? And they're like, oh, what? They're there. They're coming in just now. And Soma looks up, and Takumi looks up, and we get this great panel of Azami in his full evil businessman, trench coat and suit attire, the black gloves, happily skiing down the mountain. It's not even the fact that he's skiing. It's the fact that, like, he looks happier than he's looked in this entire manga up to this point. Just
This is the exact moment when Azami turned from episodes 1 and 2 Team Rocket to episode 3 and onward Team Rocket.
Ooh, we've got this new Pikachu.
When they went from being this, like, up in the air, half disguised, like, horrifying antagonistic force to being like,
We steal people's Pokemon and take them from them against their will. We steal people's Pokemon and take them against their will.
To be, the guys who are just like, Caterpie, no! Plomp, and then they get shot into the air in, like, a giant ball of string. That's what just happened to Azami. He's just a goofy character now.
So Azami is now James from Pokemon, is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. He'll show up with a fake pair of breasts to, like, blend in. He's going to do it, though. Here's the thing. He's going to do it exclusively for, like just wacky reveals. Like, they're going to be at the tournament, and it's going to be a big busted, like, lady who's going to bend down to give them their food, and then they'll, like, look up, and it's like, hi. It's like, whoa, hey, Azami. What are you doing here?
Like, with his super intimidating, I'm going to scare Arena shitless face, and then... Anyway, I love how, like, everyone has reacted to him like, what the fuck, man?
Well, that's what sells it. Like, it's not meant to be intimidating.
Takumi and Soa just like...
They're like, what happened?
And even Megami in the background just like...
Huh?
This is the guy that we're just terrified of, that is, destroying our friends, this weird, happy, skiing douchebag.
And I guess that he just made that a thing, because you can see Tsukasa and Rindo behind him with, like, a toboggan and a snowboard. So he's like, everybody, grab our various different snow hill transportation methods and come down. Like, it was probably the dude with the sword behind him and, like, a fucking snow tube. And, like, and one behind them, like, the little girl had, like, a dog slog team, slog dead team.
The glasses girl has a freaking snowmobile.
Ason just got tennis rackets on his feet. He's like, this is horseshit. This doesn't count.
Rindo's still cold and shivering. Not all of Central arrives immediately. Just Tsukasa and Rindo are with him, and we kind of get a time skip though to them showing up while Arena stares awkwardly at her father, and then we get this pretty cool...
I just realized that the chapter Azami fucking scoofily skateboards or skis down a mountain is like the big first real meeting Arena has had, or like conversation that they've...
big confrontation where she actually has like... there's actually a two-way conversation that happens between them, and all of a sudden Azami's way less intimidating.
Like, he couldn't have picked a worse time to suddenly look goofy. And
maybe he's trying to look cool for his daughter.
He's like, once she sees my sweet skiing style, she'll definitely join Team Me.
Team Me,
Team
Team
Dad.
Central, just Team Me, not Team Azami.
Team Daddy. Boom.
God. We actually get this really cool full-page spread of the two different sides squaring off, and they're on opposite sides of the train tracks that they arrived on. I really like the visual of them squaring off that way. And there's kind of a little bit of awkward interaction between them. They're observing that, oh yeah, all the council members are here. And so it was like, hey, Azon Senpai is here. Thanks for our Shokugeki. Die! Die! I mean, did you expect anything else?
No. One thing I just realized, though, they don't include, and I guess it's because we haven't met them yet, and maybe the reveal's coming later, but we know from the whole part with Hayama that two other people have been added to the council, and they aren't there.
They aren't there at the meeting, just the original members of the council of 10, minus, of course, Arena being on the other side, and then the others who
being absent.
The three that were actually kicked out, they're all gone. They're all not present either. So yeah, it's Azami and like one other teacher, and then the 6 remaining council members. And yeah, so we still don't know about those other 2 replacements. And in fact, there might be a total of 4 more replacements. Spoilers. Kino Kuni goes over the rules for the team battle They're going to go to the venue at the southern tip of Ribbon Island, where a regiment du cuisine will be held. The plans include spectator seating for the regular students, so essentially it's going to be like a big public execution is Azami's intention. They're going to crush the final resistance at Totsuki in a way that everyone can see. Pardon me. And and of course the conditions are that the Council of 10 will go over to Yukihira's team's side, then they can actually distribute all 10 of the seats as they see fit, assuming that they win. Whereas if Azami wins, then the resistance will be expelled. Takui, however, brings up, this might be about councils and whatever, but all that we care about is the students that have been expelled by you, our friends. And Azami's like, oh yeah, I haven't forgotten. And he reaches into his trench coat and he pulls out a bunch of student booklets, the student IDs that are all forked over by the different students that have been defeated and expelled, and each of the council members that have defeated members of the resistance start to pull them out as well. And there's a little bit of a interaction between Some and what's her face, Teddy Bear Girl, where he like grabs her stuffed doll and then reaches inside of it and pulls out a booklet she was keeping inside of it, and she's like, "How dare you do that?" It was like, you tear your own thing apart all the time. Shut the fuck up.
She was keeping a shit ton of them. If you look inside, there's like 5 fucking.
She's been expelling a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And Tsukasa gets a big moment because at first he's kind of like thrown off by them being all weird, but he says, "Oh, you can rest assured that we're keeping good care of the booklets. If you'd like them back, then come and take them. We will fight you with all of our might." It's really weird the way it's interesting the way that he's been built up this way. He's this goofy character so much of the time, but I still love that he's not like an asshole. He's just got such complete and utter confidence in himself that he doesn't need to make a big deal out of it. He just so nonchalantly says, like, if you want these booklets back, then come and beat us. But we're gonna win, so.
Yeah, he's been one of my favorite characters of the Council of 10, definitely, just because of how unique he is, for exact reasons you just gave. Like, you don't normally see the main, like, the number one of a villain group that's numbered of any kind being like, "Hey guys, can we stop, like, hanging, like, come on, calm down, alright, I guess I'll do this thing for you." But then he turns it around on a dime, it's like, my cooking's better, period.
I mean, like, usually, like, if you've got characters that are that confident in themselves, I mean, I think back to, like, I Show 21, where, like, the character that was kind of like that was Taka. But there was a kind of arrogance to his confidence. He was so amazingly confident in himself that everything was boring to him. He was like, I'm going to win, so this is boring. But Tsukasa doesn't act that way.
There's pride there still.
Yeah. So Azami's like, all right, I think that covers everything. And then he kind of comes to a realization. Oh, yeah, before I forget. Erina, you're going to be on our side, right? And someone's like, why do you get to decide that? And Azami says, well, you don't get to decide either. Central is ruled by the Dean of the Institute and the Council of 10 Masters. As the 10th seat on that council, Erina is officially a member of Central. It is only natural that she should fight against you resistors. And he then goes on to say, come, Erina, your fun and games as a runaway are over. It's time you return to your father. I'm no longer allowing any more of this childish selfishness.
Bitch, you were skating down a mountain 5 minutes ago.
For a guy that was drawn that goofily, like, barely 10 pages before, all of a sudden, in that one little panel, you see just the heavy shading, his freaking iris is a swirl to, illustrate the control he has over her.
He went from One Punch Man to Junji Ito in one fucking chapter.
I mean, in fairness, you gotta have that with villains, I think. You can't have them be one tone all the time. Or if you do, you've gotta be really creative with it.
Well,
do it in a bunch of different ways.
For Food Wars, which kind of hangs itself on being very, like, hyperbole to the point of humor at times.
Deliberately parody at times, yeah.
So it has to just be like, all right, well, eventually Azami has to be such a such a horrifyingly awful person that it starts almost being funny when he does something weird, like slightly goofy, just because it's so out of context for him.
Right. So Erina takes a deep breath. And they actually kind of make a joke of it because she takes a deep breath and she stares at him all determined. And then she takes another deep breath.
I found it funny. A little charming.
And we get a flashback for Erina. More of a montage than anything else, like where she's named to the Council of 10 right off the bat, pretty much, which is unheard of. And like even younger than her father was when he joined the Council of 10. And then being lectured by her father over the special responsibility of bearing the divine tongue, the responsibility to stand at the pinnacle of Totsuki, of Japan's culinary world. You must follow the same path that I walked and climb the ranks to the Council of 10 and beyond. And then in one big panel, there's just a big collage of all of the moments that she is shared with her friends at Totsuki, at Polaris, all the different emotions that they've gone through and the experiences that she's had with Soma and Hisako and Alice and Yoshino, Ikumi confiding in her in the previous segment of the tournament, even Hayama's words before. And she says, I know what you're implying. So effective immediately, I am relinquishing the 10th seat of the Council of 10. As of now, I am simply Erina Nakiri. And she strikes this big old dramatic pose. And I was like, you're doing this? And she says, if I don't, then I can't say that I am truly their friend to the bottom of my heart. So, big moment for Erina.
It's absolutely a big moment for her, and it's really well done too. I've been rereading Food Wars from the beginning for something I'm working on, and I've been kind of like reminded of how what kind of person Erina was at the start of it, and like how like vindictive and haughty she was and everything like that. And you get like immediately that sense of it just in that one panel of her like flipping her hair and like proudly like strutting off stage. But I love that panel of her like contemplative for a moment, with all the people behind her. And this is kind of what I was talking about last week when I mentioned like One Piece, that moment with Sanji didn't feel big enough. And I kind of feel like that's what this chapter did. It felt like it took more time to kind of like savor in this moment of a character having this realization that's such a significant kind of moment for them. Because as I said, it points to like just everybody who's helped her. It's not just one shot of Soma. In fact, he's not even really in that one. It's like that one he shares with Jerichiro. But like you see Alice, you see Megumi, you see Bun Hair Girl, you see Ikumi, you see Hayama, like all these characters who have helped her and been friends with her while before and after her kind of change with Soma. You see all those elements, how they've changed her now, and then she makes this big stand of finally triumphantly and proudly, I should note, standing up to her father. And I think that's awesome. Like, that's exactly what this kind of character moment should be. It should have this pomp and this circumstance, this 2-page spread to, like, just show you how big of a moment this is. So I absolutely love this moment for her. It's one of my favorite, definitely, of the year thus far.
And I like the explanation that she offers for it is it's not a matter of, I'm not just relinquishing this, just because, but if I don't do this, then I'm being a hypocrite. I'm not really actually standing with the people that I'm fighting for. Mm-hmm. It's a symbolic gesture, not just in the fact that she is parting ways with her father, but because of the fact that before she wasn't really dedicating herself to this team.
Yeah. And
she was like taking half measures, and she was taking half measures before, when you think about it. She was trying to help her friends to pass, but she was doing it in a way that went by the rules of the academy. She was just teaching them so that they could pass the tests that were laid out in front of them, so that they could just keep on getting along. And now she is actually saying, okay, no, I'm cutting my ties to you, and I'm going to be directly opposing you.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, this is an extremely well done moment.
We also we didn't get this in the English jump because there was no like English poll or anything for it. But if you recall, several weeks ago, I talked about how was a character popularity poll, and the results of that actually came out in Japan. And Erina won the poll.
Yeah.
Not by an incredibly comfortable margin, because she and Alice, and surprisingly enough, Hisako, were all within a couple of hundred of each other. Actually, Hisako was like only a couple dozen ahead of Alice, and all of them got over 3,000, so they're all right in that range. And then it was like Soma and Megami. Takumi was up there. Rindo was up there, which was nice. And also there's this list of all the weird stuff that got votes too. A lot of them were obviously like, troll votes, like, oh, I voted for the main character of a different series, or I voted for the author of a different series, but some of them are like obscure references. Hiroi, that dude from the promotion exam, the elementary school age girl who was the first person to eat Yukihiro Soma's omelet at the camp, the small girl that Soma first called out to during the buffet at the camp. Just obscure references for like, nameless characters within the magazine. And most surprisingly, the most popular troll vote, Y-san from Chiba Prefecture with 12 votes. That one guy who voted for Marika and all the Nezuko popularity polls.
I'm shocked that he got multiple votes.
12 people.
Now, don't forget the most important thing about this poll, though, Nick.
What?
They give a list of the people who got only one vote.
Yes.
And the second entry on that list is Honey Mustard. Honey Mustard got a vote in the Food Wars popularity poll, and it was printed in Shonen Jump. It's spreading, yo. Before long, everybody's gonna know how glorious Honey Mustard is.
One of these days, so we're going to mention. It's like, oh, you can actually go on this page and enter in your own vote and stuff. And there's going to be a write-in, and someone's going to put down brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts.
That's what happens next time. Well, they can't. They probably can't put in Pop-Tarts because it's trademarked. So put in brown sugar cinnamon pastries.
Yeah, toaster pastries.
Yeah. All right, we got
that was Food Wars.
Now we got a shit ton of
jump starts. All right, let's start off, because I guess we'll just do these in alphabetical order with Poro's Diaries. We weren't especially impressed with the first chapter of this series. It's about the demon prince trying to live in the human world and learn about humans because he's interested in them, and then demons keep on trying to beat him up, and he punches them. Page 2, Poro is late. Poro is late to class because he's too busy observing things in the human world, like traffic lights, which are different from the demon world traffic lights, which say, hit him, run him over again. Because their world is comedically violent.
Pretty goddamn hysterical.
It's funny, yes. He is accosted by a hall monitor because he is 30 seconds late, and the guy's like, "You're expelled." And Poro's like, "Why?" And the guy whose name is Tadashi is like, "Because you broke the school rules, but just a little." But just like killing one person makes you a murderer, being late by 30 seconds means you're tardy. Okay, that's a little funny, equating the two, but Tadashi is so absurdly strict and vindictive against people who break the rules that he gets possessed by a demon who wants to take on Poro, and like he ends up using demonic strength to beat up some bullies that punched him for rules. And Poro actually does get a kind of cool moment because he realizes that Tadashi, Mystery Wow would never be that way. He would never abuse his powers this way, but you've been possessed and something is bringing out this anger in you. Taking rules in your own hands to harm people, you aren't capable of that. That's what demons do. So leave him alone. And he reaches inside of him and rips out the demon and then flicks it away. Seems as though it's the introduction of a new supporting character, because we see he encounters Tadashi the next day and he scolds him for being late again because he was distracted by a mailbox. But he's like, well, you're just late a couple of minutes. It's no big deal. So I won't get so obsessed with the rules that demon takes me over again. So they're more friendly at the end after he saved him.
They make a joke also about rabbits on the moon.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole tremendous amount to say on this. I guess this is also their way of kind of moving this, possibly if it needed to, in more of a like shonen, like battle shonen way, because now they've introduced the idea like, oh, well, demons can take over the body of students as well, and make them evil. So this is like their black gear for Poro to get rid of. But I'm still just not sold on this whole thing. It just hasn't caught me.
I mean, I like it a little bit better than the previous chapter because I like the stronger side of Poro that's shown here. Because it's his whole wide-eyed, this is fascinating, my world is so scary act. It's like, I don't think it's funny or endearing or anything. It's just like, I want to punch him. So, yeah. Then we got our new jumpstart, which is called Hungry Marie. And it starts off in kind of a confusing way because we get shots of the titular character Marie, and she's talking about all these foods that she wants to have because she's so hungry. And it's this girl in this flowing white dress with long blonde hair, surrounded by all these black crows.
It's Hilda from Beelzebub, basically. If you read that at all.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't read that, and I know what you're talking about, but then we cut to a very different scene, and it's bizarre and long setup for this, so I'll try and summarize it the best that I can. Basically, we start off in the past of our two main characters, Anna and Taiga, and Taiga catches sight of Anna coming out of her home, which is this creepy old mansion, and it's like love at first sight. But they're kept separated by their parents and grandparents, because Taiga lives in a small Buddhist temple directly next door to this creepy mansion, which is a Catholic church. So they are kept separate from each other because their parents don't get along with each other because of the religious difference, and also because they are not good neighbors. They are very bad neighbors to each other. They have conflicts over one rings the gong at the same time the church bells are going off and all that. They're constantly leaning out and yelling at each other, doing it in really douchey ways too. Like the church leader has a freaking megaphone so he can yell at the other one. So, and they're not allowed to talk to each other. The kids aren't. And this right away is an interesting setup because you've got not only is there this religious element, which you don't see a whole lot of in manga. I mean, there's stuff that pulls on mythology, certainly, and there's references to Shinto, but the fact that they live at a temple and a church is rather overt and interesting, and also the fact that the two are not incredibly popular religions in Japan. I think Buddhism is a little bit more than...
Some people are saying it's Taoist.
Is it?
Buddhist. That's what people are saying.
I might have overlooked that.
And I don't know.
I think that's...
Is it explicitly said it's a Catholic church as well?
I don't think that they say Catholic.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's just meant to be some denomination of Christianity. So. Yeah, some denomination of Christianity, but I don't know which one specifically.
I don't know why I said Buddhist either, but Taoist is more rare than Buddhism. Okay. Taoism is rarer than Buddhism in Japan. It's I think Shinto and then Buddhism. I'm not sure. I don't know the frickin' division of it. Christianity is not unheard of in Japan, but it's not the most common thing.
I have no idea. I assumed it went like Yu-Gi-Oh! Egyptian worship, and then the next level down was just One Piece, and then after that it was I don't know, Zawanism. Is that even a thing? I just made up a word. I kind of Zawanism. I assumed they were all on board with that. I just assumed everybody's into the Egyptian Yu-Gi-Oh! God worship. Everyone holds their Slifer the Sky Dragon next to their heart. He's coming back, Nick.
according to Wikipedia, so grain of salt here, folk Shinto, or not religious, is how more than half of Japanese people report. Then 34% is Buddhism, 4% is flat out Shinto organizations, 2.3% is Christianity, and the rest is no answer. So Taoism doesn't even freaking register on there. So,
okay.
Yeah. So quite rare for both of them.
Yeah, and it is interesting that it's a religious element that's put on top of this, like, Romeo and Juliet-esque kind of thing. It's like Nisekoi, but instead of warring mob bosses, it's warring religion, which is a little bit more taboo, but yet at the same time a little bit more interesting to kind of see.
There's some interesting comedy that happens during this setup because, like, there's some self-aware humor as we're setting up who the characters are. Like, Taiga's got some friends, and it looks like for a second he's going to assist this gang with his martial arts abilities, and he's like, no, this isn't that type of story. One of his friends comes along and they start talking about it. So like, no, it's not that type of story either. No, this is my love story. It's not the story about a partying playboy. It's not the tale of the high school kung fu delinquent. This is my love story. He confessed to Anna. And by random circumstance, they happen to come across each other while they're both on their way to school. And so he's thinking to himself, I could confess my love to her, but I don't know if I should do that. And instead of having a shoulder angel and a shoulder demon, like, councils like appear on either side of him, like at tables. It's a little weird.
Yeah, I guess it's like apparently his angel and devil are out right now, so it's like the councils are there. They're like, Devil Daddy's not here. Do it, bro.
Also, one of them has a ridiculous mustache. But before he can decide what to do, Anna is like, I will summon her. And she takes out this carpet with a freaking summoning circle drawn on it and starts laying out these candles and stuff. And she starts chanting. And Taiga's like, what's going on? And she realizes she's being watched. And then she gets really embarrassed, rolls up everything and starts to leave. And she's like, did you see it? And Taiga's like, no. Just throws the freaking briefcase into his fucking head.
I love the just the pacing, the comedic pacing of that, of like her realizing it. And then there's just two panels of her looking over her shoulder, like identical panels of just her looking over her shoulder. Then very quickly, like the blushing, and then there's all right, you didn't say anything, right?
No, I didn't. You liar! So she says, like, okay, well, you know what I'm up to now. And Taiga's like, yeah, it's necromancy. Like, necromancy is cool. Who are you trying to be back? And she says, a princess of a royal family. But since you've witnessed what I'm doing, you have to come with me now. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she says, if by accident someone gets to know our secret, I must force them to become an accomplice. That way they won't be able to talk. Makes sense to me. Taiga's just like, okay. Because this is his chance to get to know Alan.
Yeah.
So
he's like, sweet.
So she brings him to her home / the church. And her father is like, oh, you're here, Anna. And I was like, yes, and I brought the final piece. The sacrifice. She's leading Taiga in freaking on a rope. He's tied. Well, I'm sure that this isn't what he had in mind.
Maybe it was. Maybe he's like, this day's going great.
This is great. I get to die. Sweet.
Little kinky fun before I go.
Kinky role play. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm your bad little sacrifice. She's like, yes, you are. You're going to be disemboweled. He's like, yeah, it's a little more real than I usually like it, but all right, let's go with this.
So, like, after Anna explains the situation to her father, he says, well, sorry, Taiga Bichogi. I mean, I need you to forget everything that you saw, things that you heard. And also, I need you to be the sacrifice instead of the chicken thigh we bought on sale for 389 yen.
It's like, well, this this less than $5 chicken I bought was meant to be the sacrifice to bring this resurrection to
Not
life.
a live chicken, a chicken thigh. The cheapest sacrificial ritual ever.
He's like, look, I want to bring her back, but I want to be thrifty about it.
And he's like, why don't you just use the chicken thighs? Like, well, what if we just end up summoning some cheap ghost? You were planning to do that, though.
That's where the god from like Full Metal Alchemist who shows up with the whole equivalent exchange is like, I don't know, what do I take that you tried to offer me $4 for? I guess I take your mustache and like I make it like, I don't know, just a piece of chicken on top. You fucking, I can't even be like vindictive to you. There's nothing for me to be angry about here. You're trying to offer me $5 worth of raw chicken.
And the father starts to kind of explain himself a little bit by saying, like, we have no choice to operate in secret. And he says, like, oh, well, I mean, we aren't going to kill you. No, we just want to beat the crap out of you to make sure you forget everything.
Again, very straightforward, very clear. I like that.
And then he says, we have to remain secret, though, because necromancy is heresy in the church. But as the Sakamiya clan, we have a noble obligation to fulfill. The last princess of Royaume de France, the resurrection of her highness, Dairies Charlotte. We must bring her back. And he starts to explain this story. I shall teach you our history before I send you to meet your maker. And he explains that we were part of a clan that served under Queen Marie Antoinette, and some say that their noble works were even carried out by the Versailles or something like that. You mean the Versailles? No, shut up.
No, it's different.
But basically, right around the time of the French Revolution, Her Majesty was concerned about her child's future. I'm surprised that Marie Antoinette is the one getting this tragic backstory. She's like one of the least popular rulers in freaking European history. But anyway, so she was concerned about her child's future, and so she apparently gambled the black magic of resurrection, a grimoire, in order to try and use it as leverage in order to get money, and they lost it. So Taiga's like, it sounds like freaking drunk idiot rambling. What the fuck are you on about? You guys are all idiots. Don't do this to me.
What are you gonna do? Can't win them all.
But her father says, at long last we have figured it out. A way to bring a soul that was once lost back to this world. This is a memento from Her Royal Highness, and we will attach her soul to it. And Anna brings in this stuffed dog with a bow around its neck, and her father says, the ritual will begin at midnight, and so I will leave you until then. And a little bit of bonding takes place between Anna and Taiga, because I was like, seriously, what the fuck are you guys doing? This is ridiculous. This is crazy. Look, are you seriously just helping your dad just because, my grandma forced me to help her with rituals too, so you can say so. And she says, no, I can see her all the time. She's always standing on the roof of the church, and you may not believe me, but the girl always looks so sad. She's so quiet. And after I learned her name, I always thought that one day I would get to talk to her in person. So my reasoning is different. It's my own will. And Taiga's like, this sucks that I got beaten up and tied up and I'm forced to be sacrificed and everything, but I'm still happy I could talk with you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And Taiga says, well, just like you, I've always wanted to talk to you because I've liked you ever since we met. And it's this big, dramatic, heavily shadowed 2-page spread that this happens in as lightning flashes in the background and lights up the room that they're in. And Anna blushes again because, he's just confessed to her. And he says, it was as though I'd been struck by lightning. And then pans back and shows he was struck by lightning.
There's just a smoldering fucking crater where he was.
there's a hole in the roof from where lightning came through, and it's like, but was so stunned by the long confession she didn't notice at first. Then she realizes that his ashy remains are all that's left. She looks up, sees the hole in the roof, and she's like, "What? What?
What happened? Oh!"
And her father rushes in. It's like, "Oh, that lightning! Holy crap! It did hit us! Amazing!" And they're like, "Oh, you mean Taika was those chicken thighs? We had 2 pieces, right?" All he cares about is they've got to have the chicken for the sacrifice.
He's like, "I didn't just lose that on $5, did I?"
And I was like, "No, father, it's not that." "Oh, don't worry, sweetheart. An extra solar tube doesn't matter. Thank goodness his bag is safe. We can use what's in there."
I'm getting the feeling, too, that, like, the fucking soup he just made or whatever is probably cheap as shit, too. He's just a real bargain scraper.
Oh, God. But all of a sudden, they hear a scuffle coming from beneath the crater. And they're like, "Oh, he's alive." And they hear a voice saying, "Oh, it's like the world went white. Where am I? What's happened?" And then climbing out, it's Taija Bijogi, but he has the appearance of Marie. So all of a sudden, it's revealed that this is a body switch gender change story, which was rather unexpected.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seemed almost like obvious from the way that the series was started. I was like, oh, like, so the next door neighbor of his is going to be this hungry Marie girl or whatever, like something
or
like
there's
that.
going to be, or there'll be like a love triangle involving the spirits of this girl that she sees, something like that, maybe.
Or just the way that, like, she'd be into it. If it was going to have an effect on anyone, it would certainly be on his neighbor, since she already kind of looks like her, just the hair isn't done up. But no, the fact that he's the one turning into her, I guess I thought it was like, I thought it was like, this is the most original idea ever. And then people were like, what do you mean? There's like Ranma 1/2, Camphor. Like, it's not like there's never been series about dudes who turn into chicks. It's probably its whole genre. And I'm like, I guess you're right. But it's still unique.
Especially because a lot of those are, weird, goofy comedies too. But the way that we got there was quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, I definitely dug it for that reason enough. And I had a lot of fun with it. So this is a pretty interesting little angle to go with. I like this guy's humor. I'm kind of curious to see what this series is about. Beelzebub had a lot of really strong moments to it, so I'm hoping that this one, since it doesn't have to necessarily be like that absurdist comedy at times, it's able to develop into an interesting way. And hey, we'll see what happens. This is certainly an interesting direction to go with, if nothing else.
As someone who has never read Beelzebub, I was quite pleased by a lot of the humor in the chapter. It's just so weirdly off the wall. Just this, it's such a weird, goofy thing going on. The interaction with Anna and her father, where he's just talking about, it's like, we need you for a sacrifice, and you shall replace that cheap chicken thigh we got on sale. That's so weird.
I need it.
All right. But with that said, one of the things that I appreciate about it is that it feels like it accomplished a lot in one chapter, especially in terms of setting up the premise. And then for our last of the jump starts this week, we get U19, which still has, at the end of this, we still don't have the entire story of what's going to happen in this series. Like it seems like we've gone a long ways to set up this whole situation. At the end, it's like, it doesn't seem like we really know any more than we did at the end of the previous chapter, I don't think.
We got enough from this to get, I guess, the idea, but this really was 3 chapters to do the 1 chapter kind of intro. Because that's the way the first chapter, or this chapter ends, is how I'd imagine the first chapter was like, here's what the future is. I don't know. We'll see.
Last time we saw that AG was getting his libido power awakened while Akari was being taken away. The red thread with the needle came out of his pinky. And then we see Mr. Tani, the homeroom teacher, appear and grab AG so that he can't try and prevent Akari from being taken away anymore. And, they're trying to scold AG, saying, come on, stop bothering Tsukino. You need to stop being such a burden to her. And Akari objects by saying, "Well, I like the burden. I don't care about all this stuff. How I feel, what makes me happy. How can you decide on that? I'm happy being with you, AG." And this gives AG renewed determination. And Mr. Tani is like, "See, come on, she's stupid. She won't make it in the world if she doesn't have this advantage. Just let her go, because otherwise she can't succeed in her because she's such a stupid idiot." And
look at this big dum-dum.
Yeah. And AG's like, "Don't you dare talk about her like that." And he clenches his fist, and as he does so, the needle coming out of his finger whips behind him and freaking pierces Tani through the freaking tongue. It's
kind of metal?
Quite explicit, too, because it takes up a huge amount of the panel.
It doesn't just go through his tongue. It gets him through the jaw, too. It shoots at his face. Goes through the cheek, stitches his mouth shut completely. And AG's like, well, I don't know what's really going on here, but connect with the car. And he tries to use it to reach out towards her. And all of a sudden, Nanami, the super stern, perfect kid who was in their class before, just comes flying in and socks AG across the jaw and knocks him to the ground. Stops him from getting away. And Mr. Tani's like, ha, that's done. Well, she's off now. Akari's flown away. AG can't stop it. He goes, ah! And Nanami is like, "I'll take care of things from here." AG is really pissed off. Nanami beats him up, knocks him unconscious. AG has dreams of Akari running away from him. He wakes up. He's in the secret base with two other weird kids. And Nanami shows up later, and he's the secret leader of the resistance. That's essentially the chapter. We get a bit of interaction between them, but not really a whole lot. But yeah, they're like, "Yeah, we're Garage Kids Branch 5. Welcome. If you want to bring Akari back, then you should join us and help us bring down the Greta Party." Yeah. This premise could be unique. I should say could be unique. It's unique enough that I'm like, okay, I can see why you'd feel the reason to make a whole manga about it. I don't know if I'm completely sold on this 3-chapter buildup. I guess it does give appropriate amount of development to show between our two leads and the love interest who got away, and they were able to announce their love for one another. So it feels a little bit more significant, I guess you could say. But I don't know, just overall, I definitely left this chapter being like, okay. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see how this series fares in Japan. I thought I heard somebody say that maybe this author has a little bit of leeway because that's why he was able to do like 3 chapters essentially to build this premise up. Like, maybe they have confidence that this series will work, but I don't know, just overall, I definitely didn't come out of this being like, man, I can't wait to read more. I'd be like, okay, I mean, this series definitely has potential, but I just don't know if I was sold on the 3-chapter kind of intro on this.
Yeah, I feel like people might get kind of burned out on it because it seems like it's taken a while to really get to the hook. It's intriguing. The art is good, but I don't know. I feel like this chapter left me with very little enthusiasm for what's coming ahead, because it's like I don't really feel like I know anymore. His threat power is kind of cool. I like how visceral it is, but that's really about it.
Yeah.
And it does it for the jump starts. We'll get more from Poro and Hungry Mary next week, along with what's the next one we were getting?
Dr. Stone. That's the one from the Ice Shield guy.
Okay. All right. So what the hell is up next? I'm a little confused because of all the crap we've got.
I think we were going to
Promised Neverland, right?
I thought we were going to put in Boruto and Astra first, so...
Right, okay. Let's just do that. Let's get all of our temp stuff out of the way. Boruto, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is basically the wrap-up chapter for the previous arc. This is kind of the conclusion of the movie, from what I've been told, what I hear. And we see Sasuke and Naruto talking about Boruto. They talk about this soul of a shinobi, blah blah blah. Boruto rather jumps off by himself, and he's like, what is this feeling? And Naruto is calling out for him. It's like, hey, we're leaving. And then Boruto hears, "You can sense me, human child." And he sees what was his name? Freaking Hagoromo, I think, the demon guy, Momoshiki. There it is. And he's like, "Yes, I see. You carry Byakugan blood." And he calls out for Boruto calls out for his father, and he realizes, time has been stopped. Momoshiki says, "I wasn't able to see my own fate, even with all my powers and the Byakugan. I can see yours quite well, though. Beware, those blue eyes shall eventually take everything from you. And know this, those who defeat gods cannot remain ordinary individuals. Reflect well upon thy fate as you walk it, human child." Woo! I mean, okay. It's so super ominous and stuff. I get it. And we just kind of we don't even really see Boruto react to this beyond going just looking at his hand And then we cut ahead a bit. We see Shikadai talking with his team some. It's God. The thing that throws me off most about this is seeing adult Moegi. It's just. It feels like she and Udon, I think was his name, the other one of Konohamaru's old crew. It feels like they should not be in positions of responsibility.
That they should still just be gaining at this point. You're like, oh yeah, you're just the 28-year-old gaining.
Yeah. Let's see here. They're just kind of talking about random crap before Moegi comes in and gets them back in gear. I don't think that they actually say anything plot relevant. Although Chocho says the bizarre line because Shikadai basically apparently did well in the exam and got attention put on him. And she was like, well, "Look, whatever. I gotta try hard every so often, or my dad will lose face, and I don't want to lose to Boruto." And Chocho says, "It's like how hot girls just won't be left alone, and you got to open the bag to eat the chips."
Yeah, exactly. That's 100% what things are like. You nailed it. It's what. Are you just one giant fat joke? Is that what this is?
We then cut to Gaara and Kankuro and their students about to leave on a train, which is a little surprising. It's just so weird whenever a new piece of technology shows up in Naruto world. It's like, they've got computers now. They've got trains now. Okay.
All right. I guess they have iPhones suddenly. All right, that's fair enough.
As they're about to get on the train, Shinki, the basically leader of their students, is kind of distracted, and he's like, "I'm just thinking about Boruto. He's foolish and reckless and was just a trivial low-level ninja, yet he stood his ground against a mighty foe he couldn't hope to defeat and took him down." And Kankuro's like, "Oh yeah, well, you just kind of jerked off by yourself."
He's like, "Yeah, if you didn't suck so much, maybe you could have gotten things done." He's like, "Hey, come on."
But Gaara's like, "Hey, I told you to hold back. I didn't allow you to fight." And Shiki says, No, that's not it. Regardless of whether you permitted me, I had no hope of winning that battle. And but some of the other students are like, "Hey, if you went up against Boruto, you'd win, right?" And Shiki just doesn't really have a reply to this. And Gaara says, puts on his freaking sage mustache and says, "You don't need to be impatient. From my view as Kage, you have all just started your own paths. Focus on the road ahead, not the steps of those who walk beside you. You need to first learn that your shinobi way stretches far into the distance."
Sounds lame. Hey, shut up. Shut up.
It sounds kind of weird for Gaara to be delivering that line, I think.
I mean, it makes sense. He's gotten older. I kind of always see Gaara as being like one kind of emotional level. Like I always kind of see like even though he wouldn't be evil, he's always still going to be kind of like low energy to the way he does things. Whereas this seems like almost a little bit of cockiness to it, but it may just be the way it's drawn. Who is this? This is what that guy's team then?
What, Shinki? Gaara?
Stop saying that name because I really every time I'm like, is Nick using racial epithets on the stream? Nick, you can't do that. Yeah, is that I guess that girl with like the tube top hoodie and the guy with the mask? Are those his teammates?
Oh my god, that is a tube top under a hoodie, isn't it? Jesus.
I know. I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool looking outfit.
That's weird.
I don't feel like it'd be practical for ninjas, but whatever. And are those his team or are those his siblings? Because he's Gaara's adopted kid now, I believe.
They are. I think that they are all. I believe that they mentioned they are all Gaara's adopted kids.
Okay. So like, there had to come a point where he had to say, like, listen, I know you're just my adopted daughter, but I don't know if I could allow you to go outside in a tube top that isn't, like, at least zip the hoodie up most of the way.
I'm not sure.
Is that a belly ring?
It's hard to tell in the panels that we see her in if that is a tube top or not. I forget if we got a better look at it or if, like, I'm sure she's, like, shown up in the movie and someone could tell me if it is supposed to be or not. But it feels like it's like too high to cover what it's supposed to, so maybe it's just the design on a shirt she's wearing under it.
No, because you can see her belly button.
Can you though?
Yes,
is that her belly button?
Very clearly.
Her belly button, or is it the wrinkle of a shirt?
It's her belly button. It's just too high. Like it doesn't.
That's my point. The proportions are incorrect. I don't know. Whatever. It's not important.
No, Nick, we're not moving forward till we address this. Everyone's like, why do you guys care? I'm like, I don't know. It was an observation that was made, and now it must be discovered if it's true.
I want to point out. I don't actually have a position of this. I'm simply doubtful about it. So, we cut to the Uzumaki household, where housewife Hinata is presenting dinner and has sewn up her son's jacket because that's all she does anymore. I'm not upset that, like, I'm not saying that, like, women can't have domestic roles because #feminism or anything like that. But it is weird to see that almost every single Konoha female character that was an active ninja has now become a housewife from the knowledge that we know of. Like Sakura, Hinata, it looked like Tamari. Seemingly all of them have settled into that role. It's just kind of weird to me.
Yeah, no, and I completely get that. It is a little bit strange. Now, to be fair, this is just because it's kind of interesting. We finally, I guess, have now just gotten to the point where the movie didn't cover it anymore. Like so
this is like going to be like original story, I think, from this point forward.
Yeah, because I definitely have heard they're intending to do more, and that's the plan. So with that logic under our belt, we could say like, oh, okay, maybe there's a whole lot more planned, and like those characters will be more prominent. But yeah. Essentially, the only major characters from the previous part that are still like actively doing anything are Naruto, Sasuke, and I guess Shikamaru's dad, or Shikamaru rather. So
Shikamaru's dad's dead.
Hey, we don't know. He could be like a shadow ghost out there keeping Hiden locked in that fucking pit.
But they're having a discussion because Hinata has repaired Boruto's jacket, the original jacket that he had, as opposed to the one that he borrowed from Naruto, and the shoulder's been sewn up now. And she's like, are you sure you just don't want a new jacket? And Boruto's like, yeah, it's cooler like this. Which, I mean, it's like, okay, that's cool. He's got a memento of his experience as a ninja, and he's proud of that. So that's a nice little detail. Mm-hmm. And Boruto and Naruto head off. And Boruto's like, yeah, I'm going on a mission, and you have fun work too. And yeah. There's a weird moment where we see that Boruto is in like an ad now and broadcast on like the New York City displays that are in Konoha now. And he's like, yeah, teamwork and guts and experience, blah, 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 blah. And he's with his team and they're kind of chiding him. It's like, wow, you've had a lot of freaking promotions and interviews to do since you got popular, huh? And so I was like, yeah, even though you cheated.
I got they let him forget it.
Yeah, just like, no, we're not going to just forgive you because you saved the town. No, you asshole.
Dude, you cheated, like, very publicly.
You were... He's like, I apologize for that, so can't you drop it? No.
It's like, yeah, but dude, still dick move.
What's Mitsuki says, though, I mean, I think that, you're worthy of being the Lord Fourth's grandson and Lord Seven's son, and hey, maybe even the next Hokage. And Sarada, when she hears that, is like, do you want to be Hokage, Boruto? And Boruto thinks about it for a second. He's like, no, I don't. And this is probably my favorite part, one of my favorite parts of this series that we've gotten so far, because he turns this around and says, well, you're gonna be the Hokage, right? I'll be your right-hand man, and I'll work to protect you, because, being Hokage is just one track to me, and just because my grandfather and my dad were Hokage doesn't mean I've got to do that too. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, no,
I like that.
I like that this series is immediately going to buck that idea and be like, no, this is a story about Sarada being the Hokage, and Boruto, he's going to find his own path.
He says he wants to be a shinobi like your dad. He wants to be like Sasuke, which, after seeing Sasuke in action in this story, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty cool dude. Go for it.
Just don't take the same path he took.
Try not to be an asshole.
So, I mean, it's a cool moment for Boruto, and I mean, I'm really, really happy with what we've gotten out of this series so far, and I'm looking forward to what's ahead for us, because, I mean, the first, like, half of this story that we've gotten to this point, we were really ragging on Boruto for being a little shit.
Yeah, well, to be fair, he was, but...
He was a little shit, but he has matured, and so I'm appreciative of that. What I'm not quite so appreciative of, it's not that suddenly Sarada has a crush on Boruto, because now he's acting cooler, so that's fine. It's cool that she has that sense of admiration for him and whatever. It's the fact that she has this sense of, when did he get so cool? Right when he says, I want to be a shinobi like your dad.
I mean... Isn't that a thing? Don't all little girls want to eventually grow up to marry guys like their dad? Isn't that like a thing?
That's a thing that's like a weird, creepy joke. It's called the Electra complex. Whereas like
based on Marvel's Electra?
No, that's who she's named after.
That's horseshit. She's the first original character ever named Electra.
Because Oedipus had a daughter named Electra, so the Oedipus complex for girls is the Electra complex. So it's unfortunate timing there, where Boruto has this really cool character-defining moment, and he wraps the whole thing up with, I want to be like your dad, and that's where she goes,
she's like, yeah, you do. It's like, wait, what's happening?
Can I call you daddy?
I feel like I need an adult now.
And then she has another weird moment where she suddenly, because she's paying a lot of attention to Boruto all of a sudden and staring at him, and she's like, your eyes, they're even bluer than Lord Seven's. And that makes Boruto remember, remember your blue eyes shall take everything from you. It's a really weird moment.
Well, I guess it's meant to be that the side of him that the blue eyes come from, I forget which side, I guess it would be his dad's side.
It is from Naruto, yeah.
So I guess like the Uzumaki blood within him, or maybe it's his mother's blood. 'Cause did he get his eyes from his mother?
Well, Momoshiki observed two different things about his eyes. He said, those blue eyes shall take everything from you, but he also said, the Byakugan blood runs through you, which he would have gotten from the Hyuga. So blue eyes from his dad, and then Byakugan, I guess he's carrying the Byakugan gene or whatever from his mother. So
I like to think he heard it, and he was
surprisingly enough, eyes play a big role in the lore of a Naruto series.
Another Naruto character with special eyes. Better get them fucking 1-800 contacts. I like to think he heard, your blue eyes are so big, and he guys started realizing, holy shit, I need to get home and play Yu-Gi-Oh! It's been so long. He's running home on that fucking
White Lightning.
That fucking Ninja Scroll Game Boy that they have for some reason now.
If he ends up learning the Chidori because he idolizes Sasuke and goes God damn it, blue eyes, lightning attack, shit.
No, I can't avoid this. He gets a dragon-shaped jet. I'm like, all right, I guess this has stopped being subtle now. Just call me Kaiba Man. I'm like, all right. Now this is just plagiarism, isn't it?
Konohamaru shows up and he leads the team off to go on their mission. Boruto trails behind a little bit and he removes the bandage from his hand so that he can look at this black diamond that's now shown up on it since the encounter that he had with Momoshiki. He, of course, he remembers the warning again and he thinks to himself, fate, I won't remain ordinary. Bring it on. Whether a fate or a curse, go ahead and try interfering with my shinobi way. I never planned to be ordinary anyway. After all, I'm a ninja. I said it before, but this isn't a tale about a boy who aims to become Hokage. That was my dad's story. This is my story.
It's gonna have dragons and fireballs. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be hip. It's not your daddy's ninja story. There's a fat girl who talks about how fat she is. We're progressive.
As opposed to a guy who talks about how fat he is.
We allow all body types of women in Naruto, in Boruto, but the ones who are a little bit big will remind you of that fact as frequently as possible. It's sort of like saying, like, yeah, we've got diversity in Avengers. Not all the women are curvaceous. And it's like, oh, and Big Bertha's over here. Big Bertha, what do you feel like tonight? Church cake! It's like, thanks, Big. Thanks, Big B.
Overall, though, this was one of my favorite chapters of Boruto, I think, overall. And certainly the best one that we've had in the last couple of months of it running.
Yeah.
So I'm quite glad that we're going to get more of it coming along.
Yeah, I definitely dug it. I'm intrigued to see what this series does when it's off the leash of what the movie forced it to do, and now it's kind of free to go at it.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of effect that has on it. All right. The Promised Neverland, chapter 2.
Hold on, Nick. I'm sorry we had
No.
Astra Lost in Space.
Damn it! Fuck. Fucking making me look foolish on the things that we agreed upon previously.
We established this at the start.
Agreed upon 10 minutes ago, too.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Astra Lost in Space, chapter 26. Last time, Charse was suspicious because he claimed to be in a biology class with Aries, and Aries didn't remember him. Aries has photographic memory, so now suspicion is being laid upon him. But Charse says, no, I actually am taking biology. Come on, who remembers everyone in their class? Once you forget a few people, and Aries is like, I'm not very smart, but... she's like, but, I have photographic memory, so explain yourself. And Char says, come on, guys. But all right, fine. I'm a transfer student. I transferred to Carrot later than Aries did. I arrived literally right before the camp started. And everyone's like, what, seriously? Right before camp? That's weird. And he says, yeah, my first day at the school was July 1st, and there was no biology class held between then and July 4th, which was the day that we left for camp. I was informed ahead of time that camp would begin right away for me. They told me I was included because they wanted to have students from a variety of backgrounds. So, yeah. Any other questions? And they're like, yes.
No questions. All right, goodbye.
Okay. Any questions? No, bye.
He's like, I know.
Sean Spicer will be answering all the questions for me. He transferred into class. Period. That's it. End of discussion. Get out.
Just slams the podium over and leaves. Like, all right, well, that wasn't really helpful. Char's like, look, I didn't think that this information was necessary to give out. Come on. And Kitari says, like, okay, Aries brought up that she had transferred in. And at that point, that would have been natural for anyone else who had transferred recently to bring that up, too. So the fact that you were quiet at that point is actually suspicious. And Aries tries to be diplomatic and says, come on, like, we're bothered that you didn't trust us enough to actually share this information with us. I thought we were friends. And Zach kind of steps into Charles' defense. He says, look, everyone is free to leave as much information aside as they choose. You can be as open or as closed as you wish. That said, the fact that you transferred in right before the camp started, I mean, if you say that, of course we're going to think that you're the assassin who was put into our group. So at that point, Kanata just like, you should tell us, Chars. What if I refuse? I'm going to lock you up then. So, diplomatic approach,
captain's approach.
He's like, we'll do this fairly, but to be fair, if you don't follow our rules, I mean, come on, I'll just beat the shit out of you.
So Char says, all right, fine. Look, but fine, I'll share this information with you because you're my friends. I was born and raised in the Imperial District of Vixia. And everyone's like, what? Really? What? And what was her name? Fran? Little girl, whatever. Is like
little
girl. She's like, what's a Vixie? And Kitari says, well, it's a district where the kings and nobles live in the world, and it's kind of secretive. Char says, yes, I was born into a noble family, but I abandoned them and fled from my home district. We get this big flashback explaining, in 1963, after a brutal 2-month war that effectively destroyed all of civilization, a new world government was established that unified the world. Nations were abolished and the land reorganized into districts, including District 12. Like, seriously. How can I hear this information and not go, Hunger Games?
It's a lot to take in immediately, too, to be like, all right.
Suddenly, like, by the way, the last 50 years of history are completely different in this universe. Just want to bring that up.
Like, I know in every way this is a much more futuristic series, but then there's, like, this one kingdom that I guess is, like, fucking medieval England and shit.
And they're full of douchebag nobles. We see that, in this freaking perfect paradise for the nobles, we see Charles in his youth, and he sneaks out of this opening between, like, a crack in the wall, and meets up with his friend, this peasant girl named Sayla. And he like dressed her up in fancy clothes so that he can lead her through his home district so that they can go around. But she ends up bumping into a guard who recognizes that she's not from the noble district. He's like, oh, she's a commoner. So the guard is like, how did she get in here? And Jarch is like, I let her in. Where'd you sneak in? Trespasser, illegal entry. Come with us. You have to leave. And he's grabbing her, and so she bites him in self-defense. And he's like, filthy peasant, just freaking backhands her.
It's like, how do you accidentally backhand a child right off
so hard that she flies backwards over the barricade of the wall and onto the freaking concrete floor below. And so, of course, she goes into a coma. She's bedridden, and Charles is, of course, incredibly upset about this. He yelled at the guards. He yelled at his father over this. And his father's like, you are nobility, you must be dignified.
It's like, but father, I wasn't even old enough to want to hit that yet. Come on, Dad. You gotta help a guy out here.
He cock-blocked me before I even knew I wanted it.
You're a real fuck, Dad.
But he says, the nobility are just animals being kept in a zoo. I'm going to live my life in freedom. And there's an awkward kind of moment because he's like, bringing stuff to Sayla, like sharing information he's learned about her. And it's like, hey, Sayla, today I'm going to teach you about koalas. Eucalyptus leaves have a high concentration of toxins and are hard to digest, so koalas take a very long time to break them down. So they spend a lot of time sleeping, 20 hours every day. Haha, isn't that strange? Koalas are kind of like you.
They just sleep all day, like... kind of morbid.
They're not doing anything.
It's like, could you come in with happier fucking things? Not like
every just like sits up.
He's like, today I'm gonna read the story of Snow White. She was this girl who always slept, kind of just like you.
All right, actually, this is depressing me. Okay.
It's just everything he brings in is some variation of, it's about a person who sleeps and doesn't do anything else, just like you.
I really shouldn't have stumbled into that section of the library.
I mean, there's so many books there. I found the TV tropes page that fit just perfectly for this, and I kind of feel like taking advantage of it.
He recaps like, okay, so he left behind his home district. 4 years after the accident, Sayla's family moved out without telling me where they were going. I'm sure Sayla must still be sleeping quietly wherever they took her. Not long afterwards, I made the decision to leave Vixia too. I don't care about the nobility, and I don't intend to ever return. An acquaintance of a distant relative lived in Mosanish, I think, and adopted me. Thanks to her, I was able to enroll in Caird, at a dormitory where I could live. So LaCroix is my adoptive mother's name. It's not actually mine. So sorry I didn't bring this up. I have lost my childhood friend. I left my childhood home, some of my family. I had only just started a new and strange life when I suddenly found myself on this trip, little time to adjust. So I just couldn't bring myself to talk about it. So I'm sorry. And it pans back from him, and everyone just like, ah!
Well,
except for Olgar.
I was gonna say all the girls are crying.
all the
I guess Zach looks like he's got his head off to the side, so maybe
Zach is hunched over,
and the main guy's got like one single little soldier's
he's
tear.
crying, man. And Olgar's just off in the corner, like,
Yeah, whatever.
He's
like, "Are we eating or?"
So your friend, your person who you loved in your childhood, who's taken from you, is still alive, is what you're saying?
You lucky son of a bitch. It's like, no, you don't understand. She's horribly crippled. She might have died in the time I've been in space. I don't know. He's like, God, stop making me jealous.
Yeah. And so Charles is just like, come on, why are you crying? And they're like, oh, Sam, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We were so rude to you. And it's like, oh, come on. I should have told you about it. I just, come on. Why are you crying about this? And Kanata says, what do you mean? I mean, she's important to you, so she's going to be important to us too. So, they bonded together as closer friends from this experience. Surprisingly, seems to have resolved this plot line rather quickly. I thought that we were going to get to a bit more intense stuff out of this, but I'm not upset about this, but
yeah, I mean, it's interesting. This was the person that Annalise thought was the killer, and because the one person we kind of hadn't found anything out about, and now we found out about him. It's like, oh, I guess he's not, because you even see like the scene of him at the end, like looking at the picture. So maybe like the notion of like, oh, it's just an elaborate story he made up, probably not true. But
well,
I mean, there's still the possibility that it's not what he told isn't true. That there is a Sayla out there, and he is trying to do something for her benefit, but he may not actually necessarily have been a fucking character from a fucking medieval village somewhere and all that nonsense. He could still be the assassin.
We do get a little moment because things kind of resume to everything, and Charles is reflecting. He's like, I actually have a family again now after I cut ties with everyone else, and Aries, while they kind of walk off together, they start talking again, and Aries says, "Oh, Sayla was really important to you. Do you mind if I ask what she was like?" And he thinks for a second and says, "She's a lot like you." And all of a sudden, Aries, remembers all the times that he freaked out over her and was so protective of her, and she starts to blush. And often it's like he's like, "Oh, the love triangle, yee!" Freaking shippers.
Nick gets angry. He's like, fucking hate you all so much.
Not really. And yeah, like you said, we see him in his room later on, looking over the portrait of Sayla and just saying, "I'm sorry." It's a rather somber moment, and also it seems a little bit ominous, just the way that he's drawn as he's looking over it. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if this is the true story or not.
Right. Well, and the way he says it, you could just say is like maybe he's sorry for what happened in general. Maybe he's sorry that he can't see her again. Maybe he's sorry that he told the story at all. Or yeah, maybe he's sorry that he, hey, maybe it is true, what happened, and maybe that's why he's on the mission and he's the killer, and maybe he's sorry that he used that to throw suspicion off of himself. So, who knows?
It's fine. It's nice to see what Charsh has behind him, like what actually is the secret behind that character, and now kind of everyone in the group, we know at least enough about them. We may not, some may have a little bit more than others, but no one in the crew is like a big question mark anymore. This one kind of had a lot of tough, like it was tough to follow this one though, since you had to, or be this one because you had to follow Luca's whole story which was a much more dramatic and like interesting revelation as opposed.
Well,
to
and it also had the big like the planet is flooding thing going on around it, and the gun, and
whereas this one, it's just like, all right, guys, so I came from this place, things happen, I got a girlfriend, she's in a coma, I ran away. Anyways, I'm here now. It's like, oh,
she's not my girlfriend, but you know.
Yeah, he's like, but if I, she woke up, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm just saying, come on.
I mean, she would still technically, I guess, be mentally 12 or whatever, but
Hey, I mean, I'm, who am I, saint?
Yeah. Okay, is it Promised Neverland time now?
I think you could do Promised
Neverland. Gonna fuck up a third time on this?
I think you could do it.
Okay. Chapter 28, Concealment.
Oh, wait, Nick, we're all triggered now.
Fuck off. So this is the chapter where Ray explains how he learned the secrets of the orphanage. And we said last time, I knew from the beginning. By the way, this actually led to... I don't want to give it away yet, what we did. But if you check out the bonus podcast for February, we did Weekly Manga Recap Blues, and we came up with a voice for Ray that might be my favorite voice now. You should really check it out. It's...
I played just a tease before the episode for some, like, if you haven't seen it yet, and I can't stress, like, it was only 30 seconds that I played, and I'm like, you don't understand, it was like 15 minutes though of us doing this like thing back and forth of Ray's voice and the character he's become with it. So it's honestly one of the funniest things I feel like we did on Weekly Manga Recap, at least one of the ones I had the most fun doing. So definitely check it out if you're a bonus page or
we literally also recorded the night that this chapter was released. So I'm pretty sure that this influenced our decision to go with what we did. So God, just like one of those instances of magical timing. So Ray explains infantile amnesia. And like, what are you talking about? Well, see, you can only remember back to when you were about like 3 or 4 years old, right? Usually, people forget the memories of when they were a baby. That's infantile amnesia. But there are some humans who don't forget. I have memories from when I was a fetus. And, he just goes through like, I remember being inside this dark, warm liquid. I remember my voice. I remember a lullaby. I never knew my parents. And I have only fragmentary pieces of a puzzle. And we see like, Baby Ray being taken out by doctors, being presented before the demons as an infant crawling around.
I didn't notice this. But in the one panel, he's not only like getting like the fucking thing stapled in his ear, he apparently had enough fucking baby power to stand up and look over the side. Look at that, he's standing up in his little fucking baby crib.
I guess he is standing, yeah.
What the? He's like, not only was I a special baby with my baby intelligence, but I had special baby legs and I could stand up no matter what.
I never skipped like that even when I'm a child.
That's because I respect my body. It's a temple.
I was just constantly doing sit-ups and crunches inside of my mother's womb. had an 8-pack when I came right out.
Gotta get swole, yo.
Looked down at myself and was like, Jesus Christ, I couldn't even get a tan in that dark place. I gotta hit the beach and pick up some fly honeys.
You guys don't understand, though. You guys don't take care of yourselves like I do. Maybe if you had your baby memories, you would. I fucking hate you, Ray.
It's just because you guys were just getting fat off of your mom's titty milk. Meanwhile, I was actually having a healthy diet.
Meanwhile, I was discovering the secrets of the universe. By the way, none of you had moms to drink titty milk off of, so I hope you like that. They're like, we know, dickhead. He's like, yeah, but I knew when I was a baby because I had baby memories.
They really made a story, and I was like, yeah, I see spot running. You don't need to tell me that you can to see spot running. I already see it because my eyes are like 20/20.
I get it. The moon's going to be going to sleep. Could this be more predictable? Wah, Mom, wah. It's like, I fucking hate you, baby Ray. It's this. I swear to God, guys, it's like 15 more minutes of this on the podcast. You have to check it out.
Oh, okay. Oh, God. But yeah, he remembers getting the device implanted in his ear, even, and that's how he freaking knew. was that he just didn't forget that memory of getting it put inside of his ear and then going through the tunnel. So when they first checked out the tunnel when they were kids, apparently he knew where it was even before that. So yeah, his memory goes back to like a year before he coming to the orphanage. And so they're like, oh wait, so what you're saying is when we go past the gate outside, we don't go outside. And Ray's like, yeah, we actually just go straight to headquarters. That's where that tunnel leads, which we kind of already knew because we saw Crone going through the tunnel and meeting up with Grandma there. So, and Ray essentially caught on that there was, a secret here because he remembered just enough from when he was a child to know that the world as it was being explained to them as they were growing up didn't match up. And when he got to learn more, when he was able to read stuff from the library, he understood, okay, this is not right. This was an orphanage. When he was actually old enough that he could understand the stuff that he had seen, he understood what was going on. Mm. And so when it came to his 6th birthday, he actually just flat out asked Mom about it. And she was surprised, and that made me confident that it was true. And so then they, of course, made the deal. And that was it. So Emma, is like, oh man, so Ray not only has known about this for 6 years, he's known about it for basically his entire life. And he's just been living with this knowledge and this secret, not able to really do anything about it until now.
I know, I'm pretty awesome.
I'm pretty sweet. I bet you're totally in love with me now. Both of you want me so bad.
Which is fine, because I go both ways, because I'm open-minded. Because if you recall, I have all my memories from when I was a baby. And when you have all your baby memories, you're a little bit more open-minded and transcendent than other people.
Why can't you just be accepting like I am? I actually know that there are 5,000 genders. And
it's like, what you don't understand is I'm on an elite level of human where you actually evolve past us. It's me and a tiny group of people. It's me, Bill Gates, and Johnny Depp, and that's why we're all so intelligent and smart and amazing. You guys don't even know who those two people are because you don't read many books as I do. Books is more of a superior form of entertainment. All this video game stuff that you play.
Actually, in fairness, I don't think that there are movies in this world, so...
He just keeps going, just dragging on. We're like, we get it, Ray. You have baby memories.
Norman goes outside to fake his own death, and Emma, hobbles away on one foot just to get away from him.
She's like, can you tell him I got shipped out? It'd be so much nicer if I don't have to see him anymore.
Maybe if you guys were higher forms of intelligence, you wouldn't be shipped out like I'm not.
Maybe if you guys were woke, you wouldn't be getting shipped out, but you're not, so... It's just like, don't you fucking come at me with this woke shit.
Oh, God. So, yeah, Ray lays out a bit more details, but he's like, you guys kind of already have probably figured most of this out from the stuff that you've been learning from Crone and from everyone else. Headquarters and the adjacent 5 plants, those make up the Grace Field House. The gate won't serve as an escape route. Once we pass it, it's not just a few guards out there, it's swarming with demons and adults. And so it was like, oh, but that's bad. And Ray says, well, actually, that's why the security is light. It's the same beyond that, the pretending to be family and all that stuff. That's why I can say for sure that they aren't going to increase security when Norman escapes or pretends to escape. So, just nullify the tracking device, hide in the forest, and use this. And he hands him this bizarre little tin candy case with wires sticking out of it. And he's like, you just push against the left ear and you push the button and that'll nullify the tracking device. And I was like, you made that from camera parts? Well, I made it from a bunch of stuff that I've been collecting as prizes over time. The camera just happened to have the strobe that I needed in order to complete it.
I make all of my technology homemade, actually. It's real more pure and art to the craft.
I made this in a cave with a box of scraps.
I care about craftsmanship, not like today's regurgitated products. Like, Ray, for the love of God, we haven't even gotten to Black Clover yet. Shut up!
And Ray says, oh, and Donnie Gold are making us another rope out of spare sheets and stuff, so we don't care if Mom finds out anymore, or I had them steal more from the linen room. Who cares if she discovers that we are more active at this point? So yeah, you'll disappear tomorrow, and then once Emma's leg is healed, that's when we'll escape. And Emma's like, yeah, okay, we're not going to let you die, Norman. We'll get out of here alive, all of us. And all three of them hold hands together and form a circle. It's much more effective circle of hand-holding scene than fairy tales, I will say.
Well, there's not a fucking dragon flying above them with a nuke ready to go off.
We will survive! So we cut ahead to that evening where, they go through, Isabella introduces, it's like, oh, Norman's gonna be adopted tomorrow, and, all the little kids are freaking out, and let's see, I think that something happens. Well, I mean, like, Sherry, one of the little girls, like, freaking drops a plate on the ground, is like, what? No! Some of the more mature kids are trying to comfort her. There's this one tan kid with blonde hair who like has to drag her in front of Norman so that she can properly say goodbye and stuff. And Norman keeps up the act for all of them, and which it makes sense, because like he doesn't want to make a scene because he wants the kids to stay comforted, and that's why Isabella is not suspicious that he's acting so happy. And we go back to Emma's room where she's healing up, and she's freaking devouring her dinner. She's like, I've got to heal up!
Doing the second most dramatic eating of food I've seen in the series. The first of which will forever and always be, I take a potato chip and I eat it! Crunch!
If you look in the manga, that's not actually an incredibly dramatic scene.
No, but that shit's still fucking
in the anime. We see Norman standing by himself, and he's sitting on his bed, and he stands up and he goes into the drawer, and he finds the pen that Crone hid. And which actually, makes you realize just how freaking quickly this sequence of events in the last several chapters have gone down. Because like over the course of one day, Crone was sent away, revealed what she knew about Isabella, was killed, revealed a secret we still don't actually know about, because I don't think Ray has actually explained what his ace up his sleeve is. No. I don't think that his explanation of his, not having infantile amnesia caused it. And she was killed, of course. Then Isabella locked up Ray. She went and she found him and Norman. She broke him his leg, brought them back, said Norman was going to be shipped out, and then they hatched this whole plan. And so the last something like 10 chapters have been like one day.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think how much has happened that quickly. We still haven't found out what that big that leftover gift from Crone is, and
yeah,
I'm worried because this is something like everything was set and planned, like in place. Everything for this, like Ray, Norman, what he's going to do was like set and scheduled, and like they kind of note like the rest of the day goes on, and at the end it's like Ray and Emma, and he's like, "Don't worry, it'll go as planned," and then Norman disappeared. And I'm like, I wonder if this is going to, like, that fucking pen changes something in Norman's thought process and, like, fucks with the plan in some way, because it's the unaccounted for information now. And from henceforward, we're just, maybe next chapter starts with, like, Ray giving Norman food, being like, yo, what up, bro? And like, hey, still in the woods. But there's part of me, it's like, oh, man, what if that pen is just the start of a catalyst that changed Norman's mind about something, or put him down the idea of trying a different plan, or
maybe I'll betray them now.
I just think it's gonna. I'm wondering if it'll change his mindset at all, or alter the way he's going to be operating.
Who knows? But yeah, I mean, like, I just checked the way that the series is being received. I mean, obviously it's been getting color pages and stuff, but I'm constantly like, okay, thank God that it's, still doing well in response stuff. Like the lowest that I'm seeing it is like right in the middle of the pack, and then it goes back up. It's like, God, please don't have the series be rushed or anything, because I really just want to see the way that this whole thing unfolds. I don't want any of this to be rushed, because that would freaking ruin it for me.
Yeah, I think we're going to have this one for at least a good period of time.
Okay, and we're going to wrap up with Black Clover because there's no One Piece this week. So, bit of an awkward one to end on, but whatever. It is... What are we on?
This is 99. This is...
Chapter 99.
Penultimate.
Nothing important will happen next time, I'm sure, yeah. So, last time, the Witch Queen decided to be a little asshole and used her blood magic to turn Asta into her puppets and, unleash the negative energy and stuff. and she's just going to kill all of his friends because.
So, question. I didn't spend enough time looking for it, and looking across the panels, it doesn't seem to be 100% clear. Is Ladros included in any of these crucifix? Because you can see Noelle, Finral. I'm assuming that one's in the front left is Fauna, and I'm guessing then Mars would be pretty appropriate. I'm wondering if Ladros got crucified or if he just got fucking like eaten and absorbed.
Oh.
There'd be one there for Rebecca if she was an important character, but she's not,
But
so
she's not, right.
she doesn't get one.
The Witch Queen sends Asta after Noelle first. Okay. It seems like a random choice to me. Whatever.
It probably was meant to be, I think.
Yeah. And she realizes that Noelle is a royal. That actually might have something to do with it. And she says ominously, to think that a Clover Kingdom royal would die by their sword. So, more lore hints. Asta, like, one of his other hand, not his sword arm, kind of comes to life and grabs it and tries to stop himself. So he's trying to fight back against the control. And we actually get another panel that's, like, sketched out.
Yeah, it does seem like there were... I thought I heard Tabata also had some stuff, which I guess makes sense if Tabata's also kind of working on his anime, which is coming out, so...
So everyone, Noelle and Vanessa are both shouting out to Asta and such, and Vanessa is pleading with the Witch Queen, saying, "I'll never leave this forest again. I won't disobey you, so please stop." And the Witch Queen says, "No, I will kill these people here to keep you from ever getting such foolish notions again. My divinations told me Vanessa will summon what you want and return to the forest alive someday. That is why I didn't search very hard for you. Granted, I didn't think that what I wanted would be a human with anti-magic swords. However, what did you gain by going outside? You formed trivial bonds with imperfect people, and as a result, you brought about their deaths. Nothing more. You can't escape me. After all, you are my daughter, my family. You are mine." And we get a flashback. There's a lot of flashbacks this week, come to think of it. To Vanessa being kept in literally a giant bird cage. It's a little on the nose.
Not since Fire Emblem, I think Path of Radiance, where there was literally a bird man kept in a cage. Has it been like, I felt like it's been this on the nose? And I guess that was a little less on the nose because he actually was a bird person, so it makes sense to keep him, I guess, then in a bird cage. But yeah, I was like, oh, okay. She's not one for subtlety, this Witch Queen.
And Vanessa is pleading with the Queen, saying, "It's like, come on, I don't have the power that you say that I do, so let me out." And the Witch Queen says, "No, someday you will have the power to control destiny. The divinations show it clearly. I won't let you out of there until you invoke that magic. You are my family. You belong to me. You are mine, blah, blah, blah." And there's a little bit of nice detail, like Vanessa is so freaking lonely inside the cage because, she sees outside people, sharing their experiences with each other and talking about going to town and stuff, but she can't even interact with them. So she's using her thread magic to form little characters to talk to her and just having conversations with herself instead. But she's essentially just kind of like given up hope, and she's like, "I'm just going to have to stay here." And then coming crashing through the wall is Captain Yami. Well, there he is.
Just boom, through a wall. He's like, "Huh, so this is where I am.
This is where I landed."
He's like a violent, destructive Bugs Bunny. Like, he just pops in places like, "This isn't Albuquerque. Guess I'll fuck shit up while I'm here."
He's apparently in the middle of a fight with the Queen. And he's like, "Huh, what are you doing here?" And she says, "The Queen locked me up, and I've never been outside." And he's crashed not only through the wall, but also through the bars of her cage. And he's like, "Well, you're in luck. There's a big house here, so you can get out." And she's like, "No, I'll never escape. I'm fated to stay here." And he's like, "Huh? Fate says you have to be here? Oh, yeah. Good old fate. I hate that stuff. Oh, well."
It's lame.
Yeah. Fate sucks. I crush fate, and I just do whatever I want. She ain't an opponent I can beat right now, though. So, I'm gonna leave.
I'm gonna peace out if you don't mind.
Yeah. And so Vanessa's like, well, what should I do? And now he's like, you decide.
He's like, oh, you're still here? She's like, in my cage? She's like, look, I don't have time for a back and forth, all right?
So she decided to follow after him, and that was pretty much how she joined the Black Bulls. And we see some scenes of her, interacting with the Black Bulls, and I don't know. It's kind of weird that like 2 of the 5 panels we get are her like being drunk, goofing around in her underwear. It's like, yep, that's a big part of the character we've known so far.
What's weird to me is that you'd almost expect something from her backstory would have like suggested why that's a thing, but her backstory really doesn't suggest why. I guess it's like she's like, I'm free, so I'm going to go to the extreme with my freedom. I'm going to be as wild and ambitious as possible.
Yeah, it's free spirited. Yeah.
But you're like, was there a point where she had to? Because like when Yami shows up in her cage, her first thing is, oh, a man. I've never seen.
She covers herself up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, so was there a point like when she got out of prison where she immediately just like, fuck these things, just ripped her top off? It was just like, let's get drunk. Let's start making mistakes, yo.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to be like thematically consistent, I could definitely see that. And also, she's like, if like clothing is like a thing that ties into this, she's not dressed like super conservatively. She's basically just in a long nightgown.
I could just see it.
It's like she's wearing rags almost.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it just in the notion of like, yeah, because she like is free. She's like she's gone full and removed any inhibition. She's very. I can't think of a term that's not loose, and that's not the term I'm trying to apply, but just like very free with herself. She doesn't like put restrictions on herself, even if like societal ones. But it does really just feel like it's like, okay, so there was like you just went a fucking 180 when you got out of there. All right, fair enough, I suppose.
So Vanessa shouts out at the queen, "You're not my family. The Black Bulls are, all of them. And right now that family is about to be taken away from me. I have to stop this. Why am I here anyway? Please, if I really do have that sort of power, then let my magic change destiny." And her grimoire opens up and a new spell appears within it, and her thread magic takes the form of a little kitty cat on her head. Which
like a douchey cat just pees on her head and disappears. She's like, I hate cat magic. It's so unpredictable and randomly cruel.
And the queen is like, the red thread of fate. It's gonna tie a guy's mouth shut after piercing through his cheek.
Oh no!
It was a bizarre coincidence that 2 red thread of fate powers showed up in Jump in the same week. But I don't have a problem with this chapter, but something that occurs to me going through this is like, oh yeah, this was a Vanessa arc, wasn't it? You know, the fact that she went to see the Witch Queen of her own behalf separately from Noelle's group to beg for her help in healing Asta. And it feels like all this stuff has kind of been a diversion from that point with the invading armies and stuff, because we only, obviously, of course, the queen unlocked this demonic side of Asta at the end and played a role in the resolution of that conflict. But Vanessa played very little role in what was happening. She did her team up with Finral and Asta the way that they did in the previous arc. But other than that, like the stuff with Mars, freeing Fauna from her control, striking down Ladris at the end, or for that matter, playing a big role in taking Ladris down the first time. She wasn't involved in like any of that. So to have her suddenly like, oh yeah, this is like her big thing. It was kind of jarring to have to go back to that.
I agree to a certain extent. I don't know if I'd say this was her arc though, because this was ultimately the main notion was get Asta's arm healed. It's just we learned more about Vanessa in the process of doing it, and it did feel like, oh, like it's weird we learned this much about Vanessa if she's not going to do anything except the same tactics she used against Veto. But now that this has happened, I'm actually kind of happy because My main complaint about this arc prior to this was that it had just been a repeat of the Underwater Temple arc. It had just been the same thing, essentially, beat for beat. And I guess technically the Water Temple also had Yami come in to actually finish Veto off at the end. So maybe you're like, oh, this is the same that way. But at least Vanessa's somebody who I feel like we as the reader are meant to be like, want to experience their journey. Like, Yami is like the Shanks of this world. Like, he's already been awesome, all right? Like, we don't need to see him grow. He's already the cool, like, mentor figure. But Vanessa, I feel like, is one of the other characters. She's another Straw Hat, if you will. So her getting a chance to get stronger and show off is something I'm fine with, and I'm kind of happy for, It remains to be seen what ultimately happens, and I guess, who knows? It may ultimately just be that her magic counters the blood magic, and then Asta still has to be the one to save the day. Maybe it will. I mean, Chapter 100, I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. But I do just like that Vanessa did have something significant to do here, and at least thus far, it seems like that's going to be her moment at least. Even Noelle, who has had 2 moments thus far to be like, big water dragon attack. Both those moments have always been like punctuated by Asta being like, and look at this sweet move I do. Yeah! So I'm excited at least that it looks like Vanessa's going to have her own moment to shine in this kind of little mini story about herself. But I agree completely that all the stuff with like Mars and Fauna and the light novel characters, that really was just like completely unconnected to everything else that was going on. It just almost seemed like, yeah, we got to get to this stuff too.
I mean, it's unfortunate that this chapter is coming out the same week that we had Erina's big thing, where she is separating herself from her parent, who is a villain. I mean, it's you obviously it's unfair to compare the amount of time that they were built, because Azami is the main villain of Fairy Tail, and the Witch Queen is an arc villain that we didn't know about before all this. But, when the two happen and it's like, okay, well, Erina's moment has been coming a long time and has been getting this repeated focus, and we didn't really know the extent of the relationship between the Queen and Vanessa until right before she broke free from her control in this big defining moment. So it is hard to fully appreciate it when you look over and it's like, well, that's a lot more satisfying over there doing basically the same thing. And yeah, I think that there was too much stuff there's too much stuff that's been going on this arc. It seems like they should have, I think that really you just kind of need to do like a little tweak. I think that if you took out the involvement of Mars and Fauna, and thus adjusted the stuff with Latros, I think that this would have worked better. There's an invading army, let's go and stop them. And we learn a bit more about Vanessa in place of the resolution of the stuff with Fauna and Mars. Save that emotional moment for a different time and replace it with stuff building up to this. I mean, it's impossible to know how well that would work, but it really does feel like this moment of Vanessa suffers from the stuff that's been going on around it.
Yeah, you definitely... I mean, I think maybe if I go back eventually and read this arc in a complete shell, maybe it'll feel a little bit better. But as it is experienced, it definitely didn't have the same kind of like oomph to it. But I appreciate that there's at least an effort being put into it to at least develop this cast around Asta.
All right. Okay, so yeah, we are basically done. So let's name our favorites for this week. MVPs and favorite chapters.
Oh, you're starting with me?
Yes, because I have to pull up the.
All right, I don't always. All right, so. No, my favorite chapter. Yeah, it's chapter we start with, right? Then MVP.
Yes.
Okay. My chapter of the week is going to Food Wars. I think Food Wars was just fantastic this week. I loved what we got with Erina's big reveal, essentially, or not reveal, but big resolution. I just thought it was a really effectively done chapter. I jokingly am not crazy about the Azami thing so much. Part of me is like, you did Team Rocket this guy a little bit. Like, it's gonna be hard to take his scary moments as seriously when I just watched this dude ski down a hill with that pose, with that stupid sexy Flanders pose. But But still,
feels like I'm wearing. Well, actually, I'm wearing a lot.
a dark black assassin suit. But no, I still think it was really effective and just a joy to kind of experience. Like, it's like, finally, Arena has this moment, and it feels worth it.
I totally get that. I am actually going with Boruto this week. I thought it was overall a really satisfying chapter, and it leaves me with optimism for the series ahead. I think probably the most positive feelings I had for a chapter this week, just in general. I mean, like, I liked Promised Neverland, for example, but I think that we kind of ruined it for me with the joke about Ray. So my bad. So, but I am making Arena my MVP this week, though, because of the big moment she had.
She will be mine as well, basically, because she's basically the reason why it's my chapter of the week as well.
Really.
The interesting thing here is the audience poll. Now, some might say, like, this one needs an asterisk next to it, because technically we had some issues with Hitbox where it wasn't streaming correctly for a lot of people. I guess Hitbox was having some issues. So not everybody, I guess, maybe went to it to vote, but I did tell people to go over there, and we did get quite a good amount of votes, and the winner of it is actually Hungry Marie.
I'm actually not that surprised to hear that. It was an intriguing chapter. It was one of my favorites this week.
I'm trying to think, when was the last time Jumpstart won the chapter of the week?
I think it might have been Promised Neverland.
I mean, hey, I think it's great, and it's also, I guess, to be fair, a week without One Piece, and World Trigger still isn't around. But still, like, there were still really good chapters this week, so cool that a Jumpstart gets it.
I think it was August 24th, 2016. That sounds like it's early enough.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yes. As Annalise just pointed out in the chat, make sure you vote for your Jump Starts. If you want a series to stay around in Jump, go over and vote for it. I think it's shonenjump.com/issue-survey usually.
Absolutely. I mean, like, we haven't been particularly enthusiastic about U19 or Poro. I know that you're quite fond of We Never Learn. But hey, if you, the listener, have been reading them and are like, oh, I freaking love Poro, definitely, go fill out that poll. It takes only a couple of minutes of your time, and it increases the chance that you will continue to see it. So.
All right, I just posted a link in there. If you're listening to this after the fact, though, and you're like, I don't have a link, I can't click anything, Rolo T, you big jerk. If you go to Shonen Jump's page and scroll down, there's a link to it beneath the back issues part. I do wish they put... It used to be like a link at the top that you could just click. I wish they'd kind of take it back for that, because it feels like they keep moving it, and I forget where it is. But yeah, just enter it into it, and just a couple seconds of your time, and you can win some free shit too, I think.
Well, that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you guys for joining us here on hitbox.tv/RoloT, where we record the show on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time usually. Actually, we're not on hitbox.tv/RoloT this week. There were problems with it. That's why we are on twitch.tv/RoloT, which is one that we also simulcast to anyway. So one of those two addresses will work, and if it's at a different time, then we will let you know. For example, it was at a different time last week because I was unavailable on Wednesday night. We had to move it to Tuesday. So to stay updated on changes like that, follow us on Twitter. He's at RoloT. I'm at YRuler of Time. And the official Twitter for the podcast is at WMR Podcast. Check out also our past episodes. You can look at them on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com. You can subscribe to us on iTunes and also on our YouTube channel, which is also Weekly Manga Recap. If you do check us out on iTunes, make sure you leave a comment and rating, because that improves the metric and gives us a better chance of defeating the evil menace that is the Woodworking Podcast. They're basically like an army as opposed to multiple independently operating entities. Like how the media is all one entity. See, just remember that, guys. So it takes a lot of effort to go up against them, because they are concentrating their efforts on bringing us down. You gotta know that. Send us your criticism. Ask us questions. Suggest future manga for us to read. Send that stuff to weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com. We will probably not actually be taking new suggestions from emails for some time, as we're working on doing the stuff so that we can prepare to add them to the recap. But don't worry about that. You can send in suggestions at any time. They will stay in our email archive, and we will look through them, and we'll pick stuff out to do future suggestions this year.
Yeah, we checked them, so you can send it in now, don't worry.
And of course, special thanks go out to our Patreon supporters. You guys allow us to create all sorts of bonus content for you guys to enjoy. We said earlier, we had an incredibly great time doing Weekly Manga Recap Lives, or Weekly Manga Recap Evils, as we ended up calling it for February. And you can check that out on patreon.com if you are a $5 supporter now.
Yes. Special thanks, by the way, to Silva Rerum, or it might be Silvar Rum. I'm not entirely sure. It's all one word, nothing's capitalized, so I'm trying to figure out where the breaks of the word are. But Silva Rerum or Silvar Rum, thank you very much for being a patron. It is greatly appreciated. Fist bump for being awesome. And hey, you got your name horribly mispronounced by me, which some people, I've actually people email me like, you didn't pronounce my name wrong like you promised. I'm like, guys, I try.
I try so hard.
An awful clock is still right twice a day sometimes.
And, of course, special thanks to the guys who help us make the podcast what it is. Steve Mann, our tire cutter, you can check out his work at neurrockfanboy.deviantart.com, his own Patreon, which has lewd images. But you can also check out the tire cars he does for us for free. And Infamous Planet, check his stuff out. He is he still working on that frame for us?
I believe so. Guys, if you're listening to this, the one thing he commented, he's like, oh, they sent me nothing but One Piece images they did. He's looking for frames from all the manga we read that would be like the most significant moments from it. He's gotten a lot of One Piece ones, which makes sense because our audience is a big fan of the One Piece.
There are cool images from other manga, I promise.
Yeah. So if you can think of any scene, send him, let him know what it is. He's at Infamous Planet on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. And that is going to do it. We will try to be ready for Seven Deadly Sins next week. No promises yet, though. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then. Yeah. But coming in close on that, I've completed more than the first arc, which is long. So
yeah, I was gonna say you might be already past where I was still reading on the recap at this point. So who knows? But yeah, that's gonna do it, guys. I wanted to like go out with something wacky, but I think we're running long already, so I think we're just gonna have to head off here.
Well, if you were perfect like me, then you wouldn't have to struggle for that kind of information.
Yeah.
I'm always ready to go on a high note.
It's like if you had baby memories, you'd know that I have an internal clock that lets me know exactly when podcasts are running too long, and I'd be able to end it still on a great joke before anyone had to worry about it. But you don't have your baby memory, so I guess that's not really a solution for you. It's understandable. Jazz. It's like chaotic and combative at the same time. They're constantly moving in front of each other, but that's what makes it such a beautiful art form. You guys don't understand. It's dying, and I'm gonna save it.